Studios. This is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. Utah mom accused of killing her husband and then writing a children's book about grief will be back in court today. Corey Richens will be in a motion hearing. She's facing multiple charges, including aggravated murder and fraudulent insurance claims. Kane County teachers are among the districts in the state testing out wearable panic buttons in schools. The buttons work along with an app on their phones. Chet Linton is the CEO of the company that makes these particular buttons, and he tells KSL TV it's all about saving time during emergencies.
I believe why our state has been pushing this and feeling it's important is because if I have to dig and find a phone, that's a delay.
Each button costs $50, and a bill passed last year requires teachers to have a wearable device to alert others of emergencies. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump will deliver a speech to a joint session of Congress tonight.
In addition to those invited by the president, the gallery above the House chamber will be filled by guests of members of Congress. Speaker Mike Johnson has extended invitations to conservative media hosts and an Israeli woman who is held hostage by Hamas. Several Democrats have asked recently fired federal workers to come, including many veterans who've just been let go from various jobs across the government.
ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy reporting. Your money at this moment, avert your eyes. Dow's down 783 points right now to 42,436. Coming up, the weather has been affecting traffic all morning long, so we'll check them both next. KSL News Time, 9:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
These days, losing weight is such a roller coaster. You try the new medications, and when you stop taking them, you gain it all back.
Today is a new day.
Today is a new day.
Let Soda Weight Loss teach you the healthy, natural way to let go of the weight for good.
Do you know how good it feels to let go of 51 pounds of belly fat? And I did it without drugs, shots, or hunger. Because Soda Weight Loss works. Just look at all the Google reviews and all the thousands of before and after pictures.
For a limited time, 2 people can start with Soda Weight Loss for the price of 1.
What does that mean? It's more fun?
Double the motivation, double the results, half the cost.
The best decision I've made in a long time was just to call Soda Weight Loss.
Take advantage of Soda Weight Loss 2-for-1 partner program. Visit sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-day kitchen and bath. It's all about time.
3 days or less
at 3-day kitchen and bath.
It's about time someone offered you a complete custom bathroom designed for stylish independent living in just 3 days. It's about time someone offered you a written, unconditional 100% satisfaction guarantee on both their quality and craftsmanship. It's about time someone helped you design a safe and stylish bathroom with the luxury of a walk-in tub or the convenience of an easy entry shower. Whether you have an immediate safety need or you just want to prepare for an independent future in your own home, check them out on the web at 3daykitchen.com or call 3-Day Kitchen and Bath for your free design consultation today. 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. It's about time.
It's about time.
3 days or less
at 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? Yikes. When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Here's how to get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Plans start at just $20 a month, and that's not a short-term promo. Our U.S.-based experts will get you switched and saving in about 20 minutes. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's low-rate auto loans. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, the rain is hitting portions of Utah County again, making for a wet drive on I-15 through American Fork, Linden, and a little bit of Orem. So that is slowing traffic down both northbound and southbound on I-15. The good news is that most other places traffic is eased up. We're almost back to normal speed southbound 15 through Davis County, but you still have a few brake lights showing up there. And then we do have a crash that is involving a train near downtown Salt Lake City. So some of the roadways may be blocked off between 300 North and South Temple, and between 400 West and 600 West. Expect detours and possible delays in that area. GoPave Utah is your gold standard for parking lot paving and repairs. Contact GoPave Utah today. GoPaveUtah.com. GoPaveUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather. Today will be cloudy with some scattered rain showers. The mountains getting some snow as well. Highs will be in the 40s. Right now, it is mostly cloudy. Depending on where you are, you might be getting a little bit of rain. And it is 41 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
If you collect Social Security, you maybe had your fingers crossed lawmakers would eliminate the state income tax on your Social Security checks. Hold your wallets for just a moment, because there's an important update we're going to spend 20 minutes talking about that you need to hear. And maybe you got your hopes up when you heard Governor Spencer Cox on this show discuss eliminating the tax on, at least the state income tax on Social Security, late last year when he called our show.
So I think it makes a tremendous amount of sense. The average filer would get about $1,000 back this year. That's meaningful. $1,000 is something. You know, we could do another incremental income tax cut where all of us get $15, $20, or we could help our grandparents with $1,000. I think that makes more sense.
And I will be completely honest, Deb. I'm going to take an extremely unpopular opinion right here with my mom specifically, because, she's a Social Security gatherer. We'll take phone calls on this a little bit later, but let me just tell you, when we talk about giving special carve-outs to seniors, my heart says yes. Like, that's what my heart says. But then where do we stop the special carve-outs? How about someone that lost their job? Should they pay tax on their? Well, they pay they receive unemployment income. They still have to pay taxes on that. What about the broke college kid that's going to work full-time, paying for school, has a newborn baby? My heart says, well, they probably should get a tax break as well. Like, where do we stop the carve-outs? And I think this is why it's unpopular. Sorry, seniors, you're going to have to pay on your Social Security taxes, because the best tax policy out there is where everybody pays as little as possible. Otherwise, it's just going to land on a select few of folks.
You're going against Nana and Papa? What?
Sorry, Nana. Sorry, Pops.
We're going to take calls on that in a few minutes. 801-575-TALK. 801-575-TALK. Do you agree with Dave? And if you collect Social Security and you disagree with Dave, I want to put you at the front of the line today. So get those phone calls, get those phone lines lighting up so we can take calls and we can debate this. Let's just check in real quick with Holly Richardson with Utah Policy. She's been keeping an eye on important legislation on the Hill. And Holly, give us the status of lawmakers' position on eliminating the state income tax portion on Social Security checks.
I think the elimination is dead. I think there might be a decrease, and that's what they're talking about is decreasing the amount of or the number of people who would pay tax on Social Security. But the elimination of it is not going to happen this year.
It looks like there's already a carve-out. So correct me if I'm wrong, if a couple that are taking in Social Security, if they make less than $75,000, aren't they already exempt?
Yeah, that's correct. And so they're looking at raising that to maybe 90,000 or 100,000. But to your point, Dave, I mean, that's Senator McKay's position as well. But you have to remember that Social Security is already taxed when it comes out of our paycheck. And so this is like a double taxation. And that's one of the things that's different about this discussion about removing this particular tax. So for your college kid example, we know that they can get a tax refund. There's tax credits. So the reality is they're not going to pay that much in taxes because they'll have so much coming back to them. But yeah, I mean, that's part of the tax policy conversation is do you have these quote unquote carve outs?
Yeah, Holly, I appreciate you mentioning that we pay taxes. I thought we did when it's taken out of our paychecks. Dave, what are you seeing?
Yeah.
He's saying no. He doesn't think so.
Well, I'm looking at the Social Security website, and it says Social Security payments made by the employer are considered before tax income, hence not taxable.
Okay. So
it's 12.5%. It's 12.4%. We pay 6.2, I think, and then our employer pays 6.2. I will say this. I'm not entirely certain how.
Tax.
What's that?
Yeah. It's halfway tax.
Okay, so
our portion is taxed.
So from your read on it, Holly, it does not sound like for what Governor Cox said earlier, like last year when we talked to him about this, he was hoping that lawmakers would eliminate it.
And so I think it makes a tremendous amount of sense. The average filer would get about $1,000 back this year. That's meaningful. $1,000 is something. You know, we could do another incremental income tax cut where all of us get $15, $20, or we could help our grandparents with $1,000. I think that makes more
We actually have Senator Dan McKay waiting on the line, Holly. But just quickly, is this a loss for the governor's agenda?
Oh, it's just part of the process. So he puts forward what he thinks are the most important budget items, and this was one of his, but he's not going to get the whole thing this year, but part of it.
Okay. Thanks so much. Holly Richardson of Utah Policy. Let's flip the phone line over to State Senator Dan McKay. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, everybody. I almost got to be on the phone at the same time as Holly Richardson. That's amazing.
Well, I was also thinking you and I haven't had a chance to chat this legislative session, and I think we've missed each other. So here's our opportunity. Are you opposed to eliminating the state income tax on Social Security?
To be clear, we already exempt up to $75,000. So if somebody's income is $75,000 or less, combined household income, they aren't being taxed on their Social Security anyways. And believe it or not, that applies to most seniors. The struggle that I have is think about the people that make less than $75,000 in the state of Utah. You're talking about our police, our fire, our firefighters, our teachers, and the average median wage, the average wage in Utah, if I remember right, was somewhere around $70,000. A tax cut for everyone is better, in my opinion, than narrowing the base for one group or another, regardless of how much we like that group. And so I've been on that push for a long time, and that shouldn't really surprise anyone.
When Governor Cox joined our show, the way he described it did sound very appealing in the sense that, do you want everybody to have an extra $5, $10, $15 in a tax cut, or $1,000 to seniors? And although I see where you're coming from, the $1,000 chunk to seniors to one group, obviously far more impactful than, $15, $20 that we might save on our income tax this year.
I try not to think about necessarily the impact. I just try to focus on what the best policy is. Okay. A the best policy is having a broad base of people participating with a low rate. And instead of focusing on, the impact component, I secondarily, just need to make sure we understand that in the last 10 years, according to the Census Bureau and other statistical, data sources, we've seen the greatest wealth consolidation in people over the age of 65 in this country. And so we have the greatest amount of wealth that our country has ever seen consolidated with people that are over the age of 65. And when you compound that with the fact that this generation of kids is going to be, for the first time ever, worse off than their parents will be for the next generation, than the previous generation. Kids, people at the age of 30, I say kids, people at the age of 30 are now making less than their parents did at the age of 30 for the first time in American history. That's tragic. You add to that the fact that housing prices is now 8 times the annual salary of a person, of a person coming out of college, versus when I was a kid, it was only 4 times. So this generation is falling further and further behind financially, and any tax credit or benefit we give to ourselves because we vote or because we have the power to is at a great disadvantage to our kids. And that's the one thing I keep looking over my shoulder at the generation coming behind us and trying to figure out how do we not disadvantage them. And that's my biggest struggle. Is I think about how much wealth we have consolidated over the age of 65. We've already exempted income for people that make less than $75,000. And so everybody else participating means that we can give a tax cut, albeit small, to everybody, including our police, including our fire, including our teachers. I feel like that's a better approach than it would be by giving money to people who are already doing well financially. If you're making more than $75,000 in the state of Utah, you're doing better than most people in the state of Utah.
Senator, before we let you go, I'm looking at this. If it's $1,000 back in hand for our seniors who pay into Social Security, what does that work out to be? About $75, $80 a month on average. How much would this overall tax break give us on our state income taxes? Is it $5 or $10 a month? I mean, can you just put it into some perspective for us?
Yeah, I can't remember that number off the top of my head, and I don't want to give you a bad number off the top of my head, but I just know that on, an average family, it's not going to be that much. But again, narrow the base, and you have teachers, police, and fire paying higher, paying more for people who are already making more than them. I don't know why we as a policy would adopt this, all because of the inconvenience, this double taxation component. I understand that perspective, but again, we're double taxing lots of things, and I would prefer to do away with all of them. I'm not sure why we picked this one. I would prefer we stick with lower the rate for everyone. Broader base tax cuts is better policy than it is to narrow the rate. Well, but that's just me.
We picked this one because Grandma and Grandpa. Thanks so much, State Senator Dan McKay. We're speaking with him live right now. We've been speaking to him for the last few minutes to give us an update and his take on what is going on with the Social Security income tax on Capitol Hill. It looks right, at least right now, that won't happen this year, at least not totally eliminating the state income tax for our seniors who collect Social Security.
And I think the key here is, what does our heart say? And then once we remove our heart from the conversation, what's the best tax policy out there? And I think that's the argument Senator McKay is making is, sure, when we talk about Grandma and Grandpa, we love Grandma and Grandpa. We want to help them as much as we can. But he makes a very good point. They are holding on. They are doing as well as any age group. They're, quite frankly, the richest age group is the 65 and older group. The folks that are struggling the most are the kids in the 20s. Even though they're healthy and they're young, they're making the least amount. They have the least amount of assets accrued, and they are struggling. So do we give the tax cuts to the folks that are struggling the most? Well, then that would be the 20-somethings. It's not the 65-year-old recent retiree that's, bringing in a significant amount of money because they've been saving up and squirreling away money for a lifetime.
So you asked for phone calls earlier. You want to call for calls again in the last 5 minutes? We'll take live calls, Dave.
I'd love to hear your thoughts, folks. Hey, am I just off my rocker? Is my mom going to just beat me over the head and say, "What are you thinking, David? What are you doing? You just cost me $1,000." Because that's what Governor Cox said is, you know what, instead of giving everybody in Utah an extra $15 or $20 back at tax time, seniors would receive $1,000. 801-575-TALK. Do you like this, though? Do you like the idea of getting away from some of these carve-outs when it comes to taxes? 801-575-TALK.
Here's one of our texts at 57500. The texts are rolling in. We're hoping to get you on live on the air as well with a phone call. Most seniors are not doing well. A lot of them are struggling, this texter says. I think it would be better for them to get $1,000 and for me and my brothers and sisters and all of our friends to get $15. Kind of ridiculous to help. So obviously pushing there on the text to help seniors not get $15 back. I was thinking about that. If it's $10 or $15, I'm like, how many hamburgers at In-N-Out does that buy me? 2?
Yeah.
It's such a small amount.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out where I land on this. I think money's money, right? I mean, I was like, money is money for our grandparents, for anybody. I mean, anytime you can get $1,000, I would think, especially if you're on a fixed income, which many of our seniors are, that feels like a bit of a windfall. I mean, it's not a huge windfall, but money is money. And apparently, if this holds up for the rest of the session, which is just 4 days, we're 4 days out from the last day of the session, it does not seem that our seniors who are collecting Social Security are going to get a full elimination of the state income tax on Social Security.
Let's jump out to Ann in Saratoga Springs. Ann, let's hear it.
Hi. Well, you said that the group that's struggling the most is in their 20s. Don't you think that Granny and Grandpa struggled in their 20s? We are the wealthiest, maybe because we've had 50 years to buy houses, get some equity in our houses, and put a few pennies aside for retirement. Maybe that's why we have more money than the 20-year-olds.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. So does that group need the tax cuts the most, I guess, is the question I'm asking.
Yes, we live in a senior community, a 55-plus community, and there are many people in our community who are living on Social Security only and are struggling to pay the fees. So, yeah, I think we need the tax cut.
We get 2% raises.
And, our cost of living on our Social Security is 2%.
Pay raises for the 20s are...
Yeah, pay raises for someone in the workforce can be much more than 2% a year.
Well, thank you so much, Ann. And it sounds like your husband's sitting there next to you. Thank him as well. Hi, Joe. You live in Vineyard. Thanks so much for your call. I appreciate you listening from Vineyard today. What are your thoughts on eliminating the Social Security tax in the state of Utah?
I'm totally for it. I'm about ready to retire, so I'm a little prejudiced in that area, but... here's my whole reasoning. I worked hard for really 45 years of my life. Some of them 12-hour days. Very commonly, just to be able to feed my family and work hard to get out of debt. And got to a point to where I'm like, oh, good. Finally, Utah is making sense and going to stop taxing seniors that are on fixed incomes. And even though the guy's like, oh, $75,000 is a lot more money than these younger kids are making. I have a nephew that lives with me right now, works part-time, and going to school, and I totally get that. But a lot of this younger generation, they don't take 2 or 3 jobs like we used to take because it's too hard and it's really a powder puff generation. And I guess for me, I saw my property tax in the last 10 years almost double. And I'm going, what's going to happen 10 years from now? Is it going to double again?
Well, and then
so anyway,
I worry about those same issues.
This.
I worry about those same issues. Like as you get close to retirement, you're thinking fixed income means if taxes start going up, it means less money in my bank account to pay for the things that I need to pay for. So I relate. And it sounds like, well, we're not going to be able to get to John in Bluffdale. Sorry, John, but he did say to our producer that he is against taxing Social Security. So lots of people always weighing in on this very hot topic.
And I figured it would be an unpopular opinion. I knew, obviously, with seniors, this is something that would be extremely helpful, especially when you look at a possible $1,000 savings where you're not having to send that check in. And unlike a lot of our taxes, we don't pay it out $5, $15, $20 per paycheck. This is a check that you got to cut at tax time. So it's $1,000 that you're sending over, and that's really tough. I'm sympathetic to that, but I struggle with any tax carve-outs that really focus on one group and pick a winner over another group, because you got broke college kids, you got people that have lost jobs, that you could make a pretty compelling argument that they need a tax carve-out as well.
Next, President Trump says new tariffs on imports take effect today. So we're going to get economist Robert Spenlove live on the line to help break it down for us on how much this could impact your family budget.
Jeff Kaplan. When I was a kid, my parents got me a subscription to Newsweek magazine. I would devour every page into the night. And to this day, I sit on my iPad looking for stories for my Minute of News, flesh out our coverage, and I get to share the news with you.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Hey, it's springtime right around the corner, and if you're getting ready for the short season, maybe going out to the beautiful beaches of Utah. We don't have any beautiful beaches. But if you're interested in maybe losing a little weight, let me tell you about the Salt Lake City Fat Loss Program. Right now, they got a little spring special going on, $200 off the program if you call right now, set it up, and you can lose up to a pound of fat per day on the Salt Lake City Fat Loss Program. They do it without any insane workout routines, without injections, and without surgery. Those were three of the biggies for me when I joined. I wanted to make sure that I was able to address not only just some weight loss, but some of the problems I have. And they did that for me. They helped point out some of the crutches that I fell on, part of the things that were sabotaging my weight loss journey. So with Salt Lake City Fat Loss, I lost 57 pounds in 60 days. And if you're interested, go ahead and reach out to them. Remember, get $200 off the program here in the spring if you sign up right now. Go to their website, slcfatloss.com. That's slcfatloss.com.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and I'm proud to tell you we don't lay off employees when things get tough. During the pandemic, we didn't let one of our installers go. Instead, we had them clean and remodel our offices so they could still get paid. Remember the 2008 housing crisis? It was a financial nightmare for even the biggest contractors. Still, we didn't lay off a single worker. Nope, we sacrificed profits to keep paying everyone. Look, when the economy's down, most contractors are quick to lay off their workers. It's the easiest way to save money when times get tight. But at RGS Exteriors, we're loyal to our people. You know why? Because it's the right thing to do. People first, people always. That's the RGS way. For gutters, siding, windows, and more, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's rgsexteriors.com, 801-280-3110.
Do you have some money in a savings account? If you do, I want to suggest that you earn more money on that money by transferring your savings account over to UCCU.
Utah Community Credit Union is offering high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.05%. That is a lot higher than any savings account.
Right, so your average savings account is 0.5%, 0.5%, but UCCU has these 9-month savings certificates at a whopping 5.05% rate of return.
Now, savings certificates like a savings account, They're great ways to earn a safe return on your money, but the difference is a savings account, you deposit, you withdraw, but with a savings certificate, you just make the deposit and you let your money earn some money for you.
For 9 months in this case, or if you want to let it stay in a little longer and earn more money, there's a 15-month savings certificate as well. But either way, you're going to be saving so much money at UCCU.
5.05%, that's more than 5 times higher than a standard savings account.
Just go to uccu.com, select a high-yield savings option, and supercharge your savings.
At Utah Community Credit Union, you're going to love where you bank.
You hear that? That's the sound your new water makes just before it gets to your bottle. It's the purest, cleanest, and healthiest water you can possibly drink. At Little Spring Water, it's simply nature in a bottle. Little Spring Water is a family-owned and operated bottled water company right here in Utah, nestled in a beautiful canyon in Bear Lake. This spring has been in the family for 5 generations, and now it can be in your home or office as well. No chemicals, no additives, just pure, clean, healthy water. And because Little Spring Water is local, you can get it at a fraction of the cost at your favorite grocery store. But did you know you can have it delivered right to the office? Give your employees something they can enjoy day after day. And while it's a great way to show appreciation, you should be warned. Once they get a taste of Little Spring Water, they won't ever want to go without it. It's just that good. Little Spring Water. Nature in a bottle. littlespringwater.com.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. School lunch debt continues to be a big issue at the legislature, and one bill strives to make a big dent in the debt without burdening taxpayers. Representative Matt McPherson wants to add an option to donate to the debt on tax returns.
It is an easy place where you can just simply mark a donation from your tax return, for example, or for some new money, and you can be sure that it's going to the right place.
McPherson doesn't believe that the state should cover the debt. Instead, taxpayers should have the freedom and the option to contribute. He's optimistic that if people choose to donate even just $5, the debt would be significantly reduced. The bill passed in committee, so now it'll go to the Senate second reading calendar to be voted on again. State lawmakers are considering adding an annual payment to the Sundance Film Festival in an effort to keep the festival in Utah. Senate President Stuart Adams told KSL.com the $3.5 million payment is close to what competitors are reportedly offering to lure the festival away. The payment would become part of the state's budget, which lawmakers are still working to finalize. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, the number of measles cases associated with the West Texas outbreak has risen to at least 158.
The vast majority of cases involve children 5 to 17 years old. Texas Department of State Health Services Commissioner Dr. Jennifer Shuford says that even as parents rush to get their kids vaccinated,
due to the number of suspect cases that we have right now, we do expect more confirmed cases.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., formerly a staunch critic of vaccines, says he now recognizes the vaccine's value in protecting kids. But he says the choice to get the shot is still a, quote, personal one. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
Your money at this moment, the Dow continues to drop, 755 points down for the day at 42,435. Coming up, it's weather and traffic affecting each other today. Well, I guess it's more the weather affecting the traffic. We'll check them both next. KSL News Time, 9:33.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Looking for the best value in Utah for your storage needs? Apex Shed Company is your answer. With over 30 years of experience, they pride themselves on building the highest quality sheds, chicken coops, greenhouses, and more. Don't miss their winter blowout sale happening now. For a limited time, take 10% off any shed when you mention this ad. That's up to $1,000 off. Whether you need a basic storage solution or a fully customized shed, they've got you covered. Customer satisfaction is their top priority, and their glowing Google reviews speak for themselves. Help them keep their skilled team busy this winter and benefit from the best prices of the year. Visit apexshedcompany.com or call 801-754-3334 to learn more. Apex Shed Company. Nobody builds a better shed. Remember, this sale won't last forever, so act fast and secure your discount today. Visit apexshedcompany.com or call 801-754-3334 today.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's low-rate auto loans. Let's check back in with Heather Kelly.
Well, the good news is all the earlier crashes that we had that were contributing to delays across the Wasatch Front, they have cleared, but you still have a few wet roads, mostly going into the canyons, like Harley's Canyon, Provo Canyon, Weber Canyon. They're all still a bit damp, as some stray rain showers have just recently moved through there. But you are moving pretty well now if you're on I-15 throughout Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties. Also on the 201 freeway coming out of Tooele County and through the Magna area. You'll just have to deal with chains or four-wheel drive if you're choosing to go into Big or Little Cottonwood Canyons today. Teens can get up to $200 with a Teen Learn and Earn account, plus continue earning rewards as they master the essentials of finance. More at cypresscu.com/teen. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today will be cloudy with some scattered rain showers, as you are seeing in some spots right now. Mountains getting some snow as well. Highs are only going to be in the 40s. Right now in Salt Lake, it's 41 degrees and mostly cloudy. In Ogden, it's 40 degrees, and in Provo, 39 degrees. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Let's talk about the new tariffs that President Trump say go into effect right now. Additionally, I mean, he's been talking about tariffs since he was on the campaign trail. Now, my read of this latest addition to the tariffs that already existed is that imports from Canada and Mexico, we'll talk specifically about that right now, will be taxed at 25%. That imports from Canada having to do with energy will be taxed at 10%. Okay. We're going to get more from economist Robert Spenlove in just a moment. He's with Zions Bank. He's a senior economist there, because I want to know what he projects or what the concerns would be regarding our pocketbooks. I'm tapped, financially tapped, and what I would think I was hoping for, given the new administration, is something that a lot of Americans were hoping for, is that prices at the grocery store would go down, but I wasn't anticipating that they would, potentially go up the way they have and are projected to by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, 3.5%. So I'm just in a quandary about how tariffs are going to help or hurt me financially and our other listeners, Dave.
I'm a little surprised, though, that these came back, because initially Trump had talked about these exact same big tariffs on Mexico and Canada, and then it almost seemed like a negotiation tactic, because Canada and Mexico both said, hey, we're going to crack down on the border. We're going to pay a lot of attention to illegal drugs that are coming over into America. And Trump backed off and said, okay, then I'm not going to impose these tariffs. So what happened between a few weeks ago, and this was just a matter of a few weeks ago, and now, where he's come back and said, we're hitting you with the exact same tariffs that I threatened you with just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Robert Spenlove, senior economist at Zions Bank. Obviously, he's stuck with his word. Here we are, March 4th, and tariffs are being implemented. And I do worry about my pocketbook, not to be selfish, but like I always say, money's money. I don't want to have to spend more of it than I need to. So what can you break down for us in terms of how this could impact the family budget?
Yeah, and this just reminds me of that phrase. You should not take Donald Trump literally, but you better take him seriously. And so that's what he's doing, is he's saying you better take these seriously. So essentially what happened today is now we have a 25% tariff on goods coming from Canada and Mexico, and then an additional 20% tariff on goods coming from China. Now, that's on top of existing tariffs. So the total tariff on Chinese goods is about 45%. And so we're starting to see, we're still trying to figure out the exact impact, but just this morning, Target was talking about it, and they said they're going to start raising prices on strawberries, bananas, avocados. Home Depot said we're going to see higher prices on lumber. We're going to see higher prices on electronics coming from China, and even fuel. A lot of our fuel comes from Canada, and we're going to see impacts of that as well. So there's really kind of a broad swath of where we'll see these price impacts at home.
Robert, walk me through this a little bit. Obviously, tariffs on countries is different than tariffs on products. So if I'm a company and I see all of a sudden my supplier, which is Canada, is far more expensive, and there are other products out there from other countries that maybe don't have these heavy tariffs, don't I just move to another place?
So eventually, yes, but that takes time. It takes time to build a new factory. It takes time to hire a new workforce. It takes time to change those supply chains, and that will eventually be the response. But is it possible to transition that way quickly? And that's what you're going to see at the consumer level as well. One of the hardest parts is trying to understand what the price impact will be on these different goods, and it depends on whether you can easily substitute those. So, where people can pretty easily substitute out, strawberries or bananas or avocados from their buying patterns, it's a lot harder to substitute out lumber if you're going to build a house. And so that's where we're going to see kind of different impacts on different goods and the ability of suppliers and individuals to trade out of those.
We're speaking right now live with Robert Spenlove. He's a senior economist with Zions Bank. We're talking about tariffs, new tariffs taking effect. President Trump saying that he's going to tariff Canada and Mexico at 25%. And then you just heard Robert say that China's tariffs now go up to 45%. And we're talking specifically about the impact on our pocketbooks. What I've always wondered about is how this is going to impact cars. You talked about lumber. That's a big ticket item. And you're right, when it comes to avocados, even though I love avocados and I know they're good for me, I might be able to skip a couple of those a week, leave those off the grocery budget, or off the grocery list, Robert. But if somebody needs a new car or used car right now, I'm not sure it's going to impact those markets the same way. Do you foresee or foreshadow that this could potentially have an impact on the car buying market?
Absolutely. Now, remember, this is just the current round of tariffs. He's announced additional tariffs on April 2nd. So that's when they do the reciprocal tariffs pretty much across the board. And then an additional 25% tariffs on steel, aluminum, cars, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, copper, and lumber. And so it's just going to keep adding on more and more. And, they specifically mentioned cars. And so we will see an impact, especially cars that come from Europe.
Robert, final question for me. I know back in 2019, this was the first round of the Trump tariffs, and I remember hearing a lot of the same concerns about how this was going to raise prices across the board and it was going to impact so many aspects, which we didn't see necessarily. Why would these be different than the 2019 tariffs?
Well, they're a lot broader. So the 2019 tariffs were very narrow, and they were specifically targeted on certain areas like washing machines. This one is much more broad, and their goals are much more bold. The Trump administration goal is to restructure the global trading system. And so they're saying in order to accomplish these bold objectives, we have to go bold with what we're trying to do here.
Robert Spenlove, thank you so much for joining us, an economist that we love to tap into with his expertise. He's a senior economist at Zions Bank.
And he broke it down right down to the avocado.
Right down to the avocado.
Yeah, already companies talking about prices going up in conjunction with the tariffs. And, of course, President Trump addressing Congress tonight, a joint address of Congress, an address of joint Congress, I guess I should say. And it's anticipated that he will be talking about tariffs along with other things. So we're going to dive into that in the 11 o'clock hour and a special half hour of what we anticipate he will be speaking about to Congress tonight. Straight ahead, Utah school kids swimming in lunch debt. So would you check a donation box on your income taxes to help pay that down? That's next.
Rebates and tax incentives sound great, but they can be a little bit of a headache when it comes time to claim them. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and we try and make it as easy as possible for you to claim those rebates. We even have a rebate support specialist on our team to answer your questions and help you get every dollar your new furnace and air conditioner qualify for. You might not realize it, but right now, local utilities are offering over $2,400 in rebates, and there's another $3,200 available in federal tax incentives. That's over $5,600 in additional savings for qualifying heating and cooling upgrades. When you couple those rebates and incentives with Any Hour Services free furnace sale that's going on right now, I mean, even if you've just been thinking about replacing your old furnace and air conditioner, it makes a lot of sense to schedule a free estimate and learn more. One of our HVAC supervisors can come to your home and explain everything. Call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. Google Any Hour Services or schedule a free estimate online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hi, friends. Dan the Laptop Man here from PC Laptops. In celebration of over 32 years of serving humans in Utah with their computer and tech needs, we've slashed our prices. And these are the new 2025 models. Here's the deal. You can get our new 2025 S1 desktop with a blazing Ryzen 5 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing fast storage on this promotion. We also have our new 2025 SM3 laptop with the Intel i5 processor, 16 gigs, and over a terabyte of storage for $999. You can take one home today for $999. And you also get the peace of mind of our lifetime service warranty. We also have 12 months special financing available, and they start as low as $29 a month. But hurry in because supplies are limited. Because at PC Laptops, we love you. PCLaptops.com. Take home a blazing fast 2025 model desktop or laptop for $999 at PCLaptops.com.
David Dujanovic.
Let's go up to Capitol Hill right now and talk about another piece of legislation as we continue to keep our eye on the Hill as the session winds down for Utah lawmakers, at least the general session. And this one has to do with donations, Dave. Would you check a donation box on your income taxes when you file your income taxes to donate to school lunch debt issues so kids get out of debt?
I will tell you what I tell every person that asks me this when I'm purchasing a drink. Do I want to contribute to fill in the blank fund? And I say no every time. And I say no, not because I want kids to go hungry and not because I don't believe in addressing the homelessness issues. I just look at it, I'm like, I can't donate to everything all the time, and I'm taxed a billion different ways. I'm not sure I can be donating any more money to the government. That's why I ignore that check mark. And I say, nope, I don't want to pay for that.
Let's get more from KSL News Radio's Britt Johnson, who's been covering this story, and we'll come out and talk about it.
If this bill passes, it would allow people to check a box on their tax returns donating to the Student Lunch Debt Fund.
I didn't personally support the idea of the state just simply paying for all kids' lunches, but I did think that there may be another way of doing this in a way where we could still tackle like the lunch debt without burdening taxpayers across the board.
Representative Matt McPherson says he knows enough people want to help, and he thinks the donations could make just as big of a dent as a tax, while still giving people freedom and choice in the matter.
School lunch is tricky because we have this weird relationship with the federal government. Where we say, hey, if you can't afford and you need free or reduced lunch, the federal government will take care of that. They will pay that for Utah schools. That's one of the things that they will shoulder. That doesn't necessarily just fall on our state leaders to pay for this. The problem is when parents don't fill out the necessary paperwork to qualify for the free or reduced lunches. So if they don't fill out the paperwork, they're not going to let kids go hungry. They're still going to feed the kids, but those meals cost something. So that has to go somewhere. That debt gets accrued, and then it's the school districts that have to pay it off at some point. So this pitch would be, hey, for those school districts that have accrued or accumulated student loan debt or student lunch debt, then this would help pay that down.
Representative Matt McPherson is live on the line with us. Thanks so much for, I'm sure you're cutting out of a meeting or something like that right now, Representative, to join us.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So talk about this pitch to check a box on income taxes to donate a few bucks to the school lunch debt issue?
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea behind it, is that we can create a simple way. If you've ever had to, or I shouldn't say had to, but if you've ever had the opportunity really to make a donation to a school for their lunch debt, either privately or through a business, it actually can be kind of complicated to figure out where is best to get your money in order to make the biggest difference. And so this just simply would allow a box to be created on the income tax form. It would allow the State Board of Education to gather some data on the debts for all of our local districts, and then manage that fund so they can then appropriate that money out where it needs to go. And so effectively, you can simply make that donation. It would not be tax deductible like the rest of those donation boxes. But we have 1 million taxpayers in the state of Utah. Even if everyone gave $5, this would make dramatic impact on our school lunch debt issue across the state.
Do we have a good idea of how much overall in the state, when you bring all these school districts together, how much that school lunch debt is annually?
You know, it kind of fluctuates, obviously, from year to year. It has been growing. Last time I think I looked at it, it was just over $5 million. And that is something that, that Representative Clancy's bill was looking to tackle to some degree, that I believe got some funding for as well, expanding kind of that gap in the students that didn't qualify for a free lunch, but were still right over the cusp where they still had to pay or had a reduced lunch. And there's a lot of debt being formed in that group in particular as well. So there's some additional funding for those groups to expand that program into a free lunch category with some state money. But my bill was effectively trying to look for a solution that didn't cost the taxpayer as a whole any money, but those that individually chose to do so could, and they can know it's going to the right place.
So I just want to know, is this $5 million or so in school lunch debt, is that merely because parents don't fill out a form to qualify for federal subsidies or federal assistance to feed their children? Or is a lot of these kids just over the threshold where they don't qualify for any sort of federal assistance to get that free or reduced lunch, and they just still can't afford the lunch?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a combination of both of those, as well as the fact that when it comes to the schools policy-wise, if you're a student going through a school lunch line, for example, and you owe money, they're not going to deny you food. So it actually doesn't even matter what your income level is as a family. If you haven't paid your lunch debt, essentially, you're not going to be denied access to that food. And that's the policy of our schools, and that's a good policy. They feed them. But then they're not very good at collecting, let's just say. They're not collection agencies when it comes to these schools. And so sometimes there's these debts that just build up and they don't get paid. And they do come from all three of those sources.
Representative Matt McPherson is joining us right now as we discuss school lunches. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts, Dave? It's not all, it sounds like it's not all kids whose parents haven't applied for those federal subsidies to feed their kids. That some of them are just either they don't qualify because they don't meet the threshold, or their parents just haven't paid.
Yeah, and listen, I've been that parent that hasn't paid.
Oh,
if you just forget, you get lost. I'm like, at one point I was paying for 4 kids, and you just forget, okay, whose account has money into it? So there's been times when my kids have gone through and they have a deficit that I have to make up. It's a significant amount, though, when you're talking about $5 million, and when these debts are passed on to the school districts, then they have to pull it out of their general fund. So if you do have, and we've talked to some school districts that have several $100,000 worth of student lunch debt, that has to be paid in some way. So you're removing money that could go to other programs.
So I don't anymore typically round up when I go to the cash register at the store. I just say no, thank you. And sometimes I say yes because I feel badly and I want to say no in the moment. So, but typically these days, I've stopped saying yes to the roundups at the store. And a lot of stores ask for the roundup. They ask you to round up to the nearest dollar. They're going to give it to their charity of their choice. And I don't always know what the charity is, right? I don't know how much of my donation will actually go to the cause or how much of it's going to go to salaries at the charitable organization. If this were a, one-for-one exchange where I gave $5 for the school lunch fund on my income taxes, and they made sure $5 goes to pay off some child's school lunch debt, I would be all in on that. Streamline it, make it simple for me. I want kids to eat. I don't mind helping out other people's kids because other people have helped out my kids in those moments. The lunch ladies have given my kids food when I've forgotten, like you forgot, like every parent forgets. A neighbor has fed my kids when I was home late. I mean, I had my 2-year-old go over to my neighbor's house, so she was not quite 2. She was like almost 3. I wasn't just letting my kids wander the neighborhood, but she knocked on the door when we were in the front yard, and she told the neighbor, my mommy forgets to feed me because she liked the neighbor's cookies more than she liked mama's cookies. I mean, we help kids out. I do, and my neighbors have helped us out. So put the box on the income tax form. I mean, I owe income taxes this year, but I'd give you another $5 for that.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
We've been talking about this great company, Mountain Home Services, and what makes them great is they've brought together 2 companies that you know very well, Mountain Air and Master Electrical Services. And when you brought those 2 companies together to create Mountain Home Services, boy, you have a wealth of expertise.
And Master Electrical Service because they've been around for decades here in the Valley. They've been your trusted source for all your electrical needs, including your EV chargers. Now, you can call them up for a generator, and now even fireplaces, now that they've joined forces with Mountain Home Services.
That's what's so great is you make one call, they can arrive, take care of, as you said, the fireplace, heating and air, plumbing, all of these things. So you don't have to go and search a million different companies and figure out, what's their rating? Are they 5-star? You just have them come, give you a bid, and then comes with an upfront pricing guarantee, which means the bid they give you is the bid they're going to guarantee.
Yeah, that's no hidden fees, 100% satisfaction guarantee. So make sure you give them a call today. I'm going to give you the phone number in just a moment, and Dave's got the website.
MountainHomeservices.com. That's MountainHomeservices.com.
Or the phone number, 801-543-2222, 801-543-2222.
Discover the timeless value at Duke's Jewelers, a local treasure since 1948. Whether you're searching for a unique engagement ring or need expert watch repair, Duke's has been serving the community for over 75 years. It's the perfect time to visit and explore the wide selection of custom designs and quality gemstones. The skilled designers at Duke's can bring your dream piece to life, while experienced jewelers handle repairs and modifications in-house. Duke's Jewelers takes pride in value pricing, ensuring you receive the best prices every day. Need an appraisal? The Duke's Jewelers AGS certified gemologist is here to help. Whether it's hand or machine engraving, or redesigning old favorites into something new, get personalized service for every occasion. Visit Duke's Jewelers and experience the difference of locally operated expertise and dedication. Duke's Jewelers in Springfield, Utah.
Hi, I'm Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. In these trying times, when inflation is out of control and our paychecks give us less and less money to support our families, the last thing any of us can afford is for the IRS to garnish wages, levy bank accounts, or seize assets. It's important now more than ever to protect your financial security.
We have reduced our tax liability by over $42,000.
$66,300. Let us safeguard you. Visit endtaxworry.com. We have saved countless taxpayers like you millions of dollars, kept businesses in operation, and ensured that our clients receive the best possible outcome.
Nearly $65,000.
$12,000 is something that you can look at and say, okay, I can handle that.
I'm Jordan Wilcox, your Utah tax attorney. You work hard for your money. Let us work hard for you. Visit endtaxworry.com.
We're very grateful.
Things are just better when you switch to Cricket. The sun shines a little brighter. Happy music starts randomly playing. Best of all, you can get iPhone 13 for just $29.99. With the ultra-bright Super Retina display and up to 19 hours of video playback, all on Cricket's super-fast 5G network. See? Isn't that better? Smile, you're on Cricket.
Requires new account and ported on $60 plan. First service charge and tax due at sale. $25 activation fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. See store for details.
This is the story of the one. He's responsible for keeping a leading healthcare facility clean and safe. And he trusts Grainger's high-quality HVAC cleaning and safety products, combined with their world-class supply chain, to consistently deliver, ensuring he's covered inside and out, so he can focus on keeping his facility clean to help protect the health of everyone inside. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. Our top national story is from ABC News. President Trump will address the nation at a joint session of Congress tonight. The war in Ukraine will likely be a hot topic after the president suspended all military aid to Ukraine overnight.
The reason for doing this is because they say the president is committed to a peace agreement and they want to see President Zelensky meet him there. You know, this is what we keep hearing from White House officials. They did not believe Zelensky came to the White House to negotiate in good faith, and he is not ready for a peace deal. Now, Zelensky has pushed back strongly on that, saying he absolutely is, and that is what he wants to see for his country.
ABC White House correspondent Karen Travers reporting. You can hear the president's speech tonight live at 7 o'clock right here on KSL News Radio. The 23rd ranked BYU men's basketball team will be playing 10th ranked Iowa State tonight at the same time in a game that will likely determine the 4 seed in the Big 12 tournament. And because those take place at the same time, the game will air on the KSL Sports Zone starting at 7 rather than KSL News Radio again because of the president's speech. Salt Lake City police say no one was injured when there was a crash involving a train and a car near 83 South and Navajo Street. Pictures of the crash show a car with some front-end damage, including a missing bumper. Police are asking people to avoid the area while they investigate. Your money at this moment, it's been a big negative for the Dow this morning, down 1.6%. 687 points down to 42,504. Coming up, rain clears out this afternoon, but there's more on the way. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Do you need new windows? Look, all glass pretty much looks the same to the naked eye, but if your windows aren't triple-coated, argon-filled and sealed double-pane glass, the cold is seeping in. You need to call Advanced Window Products. They use the highest quality glass and premium vinyl to create state-of-the-art windows and frames, and for 38 years, they build those frames right here in Utah. Custom crafted for Utah's climate. The best windows you can buy at prices 30 and 40% less than what the big companies charge because they cut out the middleman. They're the factory. They even give you a lifetime warranty, and right now as we head into spring, save an extra $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Custom windows that'll give your house a fresh new look and save you money on your heating and air conditioning. Advanced Windows offers 60-month 0% financing, even buy now, pay later, and an extra $2,500 off. Call for a quote, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
I'm Rod with the Save Right team at Realty Path. I also own Save Right Mortgage. When building this new and disruptive business model, my attorney said, quote, "You'll rock the boat and make your competitors mad. There's no way they can compete with the value Save Right offers home buyers. She's right. Other real estate agents and mortgage lenders can't compete with Save Right. However, Utah home buyers love Save Right. Save Right home buyers get bank buster loans with below market interest rates. Save Right clients buy bigger, nicer homes. Their monthly payments are hundreds less. Bank buster loans save home buyers hundreds of thousands in interest. Start with a rate in the twos. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com. Start with a rate in the twos. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Traffic and weather together now brought to you by Mountain America's low-rate auto loans. Let's head over to the traffic center with Heather Kelly.
The roads are finally drying out across the Wasatch Front, especially if you're in the valleys, and the speeds have improved greatly. Don't have any delays right now on I-15, either northbound or southbound throughout Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties. Also have a pretty good commute coming out of Twilla County on SR-36 and I-80, but you'll still need chains or four-wheel drive if you're trying to go into Big or Little Cottonwood Canyons today. Snow and a bit of rain is still falling at the higher elevations. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather now. We start drying out around noon with a high today of 48 degrees, but tomorrow evening a second storm system moves in with even more rain and even the possibility of flipping to snow in some valley locations. Right now it's mostly cloudy and 43 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
Well, the Salt Lake City Council is set to vote today on a new chief of police in the city of Salt Lake. So Dave and I, along with Greg Skordas, our legal analyst, who served for many years as a prosecutor, now as a defense attorney here in the state of Utah, and probably more specifically in the Salt Lake City area, we're gonna sit back. We're gonna analyze what we think the new chief needs to do to ease worries about crime in the city.
It's such a great question because with a new chief, and when we heard Mayor Mendenhall talk about Chief Brown stepping down, she clarified that she asked him to step down, that this was not just him making a decision on his own to step down, that he was forced out. So what is the new chief coming into? What will the goals be? What will the vision look like? Because there's several things that stand out to me, and I just saw this morning, Axios was talking about how we've seen drug overdose deaths jump about 8% here in Utah. And it's another layer to that is it's not just prescription drug abuse. It's not heroin. It is substances involving fentanyl. Now fentanyl is about half of the drug overdose deaths. So the question I would have for a new chief is, how do you envision, how do you address the drug overdose, the usage, specifically regarding fentanyl.
And she has selected Brian Redd as her choice to be the next chief of police for Salt Lake City. He has experience running the Utah Department of Corrections most recently, also working for the Utah Highway Patrol. My understanding is he dealt with Operation Rio Grande, which the police basically infiltrated the homeless shelter area and made a lot of arrests to clean up that area when it was located on Rio Grande Street, not far from Broadcast House, where we are, near the Gateway Mall, which is to the west of the Delta Center. For those of you who come down to watch basketball and now hockey, it's to the west of the Delta Center. You may have encountered that situation as you park your car and try to make your way into the downtown area. But I just want to say, from an overview, having covered crime in this city since 1990, okay, it's a really long time that I've been covering crime as a news reporter. I have seen for decades temporary operations to what is a permanent problem of crime. So temporary operations that law enforcement starts up, they do a good job of cleaning up an area or dealing with a particular crime problem that's affecting residents. But those operations are temporary and crime is permanent. And we can get more into those with Greg Skordas, because I know, Greg, you were a prosecutor for many years when I was a news reporter back in my younger days, as I was chasing you through the halls of the courthouse trying to track you down while you're prosecuting cases. But do you agree with me when I say that there's been a lot of temporary operations? And I would say that to some extent, Operation Rio Grande was a temporary operation. We're certainly not doing it at the level that we were back 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even longer now. Maybe it's like 6 or 7 years ago. So what's your take on that, and what do you think needs to happen to at least give the perception that crime is not the issue that many people think it is? Because if you look at the stats, crime is down in the city, but I think people don't feel that way.
Yeah, and I think Operation Rio Grande, Debbie, was a large success. But like you said, a temporary success. So there was a huge homeless population at Pioneer Park near the Rio Grande area. The local businesses there were upset, and the police ran in and cleaned it up. The problem is that now, instead of having and this is just my opinion, instead of having a concentrated place where the homeless people tend to congregate, they're all over the place. They're along Beck Street, they're downtown certain areas, and we haven't really solved the homeless problem. And I think that the mayor of Salt Lake City, as you talked about earlier, really had no choice, because the legislature is really looking very closely at what's happening in Salt Lake and saying, why aren't you doing something more about this? There's even some legislation. We talked to one of the legislators yesterday on Inside Sources about, some level of accountability and having larger cities put together a plan. So getting rid of Chief Brown and putting in new Chief Redd, who I assume will be approved very easily, was an attempt by the mayor to say, okay, whatever we're doing isn't working or it's not satisfying the legislature. Let's make some changes, and maybe there will be some really systemic changes in the way we deal with crime and the homeless population. But like you say, crime is not what it was before, but we still see these homeless camps everywhere, and the citizens are not happy with that.
Greg, perhaps you can speak to the difficulties as the new chief comes in. They can crack down, they can make arrests, but ultimately, this is a symbiotic relationship with the prosecutor's office. And if the prosecutors or the jail, if there's overcrowding, there's a lot that goes into it other than just the police coming in and making a bunch of arrests.
Right, and it's not so easy to just say that it's against the law to be homeless. There has to be some underlying crime. And so, when the cities don't provide homeless shelters, and then they try to arrest people for trespassing or for camping without a permit or whatever, there's due process rights, and those aren't so easy to prosecute. And you're right, Dave, 100% right. The local city and county attorneys are saying, what's the charge? I mean, why are we taking these people into custody, and what could we possibly do to prevent this from happening again, because there really isn't a criminal violation or a crime that fits the conduct sometimes.
I think what we're getting at here is the new chief is set to, like you said, probably be approved tonight by the city council. is that this is a very layered issue, and it has been for decades, from what I've seen. I mean, you were spot on, Greg, and talk about moving the main homeless resource centers out of Salt Lake City, at least where it was near downtown. And now we have had for years. I don't want to paint this perception that just because they moved the homeless shelter, now the Jordan River Parkway is filled up with tents. I've been down there for a long time along the Jordan River Parkway talking to people who are experiencing homelessness. They live in tents, and some of them don't want the help, the resources that are offered at a shelter. So there's that element of it too. And I was thinking back to about maybe 15 years ago, I got a call from a source of mine who worked in policing and suggested that I start looking up repeat offenders. And I found one woman, as I was researching the court records, I think it was 90 to 100 times had been arrested, taken to jail, many of those times for things like urination in a public space, for camping. And it was clear to me in reading all of the docket that she had a probably very serious mental health crisis on her hands. But here it was the revolving door of the jail that was getting her off the streets and at least into shelter for a short while. So that adds yet another layer, and that is the mental health component that many of these people are facing. And then which leads to another issue, which Dave brought up, drug use and abuse.
Right. And our jails and prisons were not meant to house the mentally ill, and They were not meant to house, and they're not drug treatment centers necessarily, although I think we're doing a better job than we have in the past. And so what does that mean? You've got to set up resources, and those are expensive. And a lot of people think jails are the way to get rid of the problem, but it's really not, because like you said so well, it's a revolving door. And if you put somebody in jail for 10 days, they come out and they're doing the exact same thing they were before. But again, getting them onto a different path and getting resources costs money, and I don't know that we're quite ready to start making those kind of expenditures.
Greg, as I was looking through the overdose deaths here in Utah, and it looks like they've jumped up about 8%. Another layer to this is it's not just prescription drugs, which had been a problem for so long and transitioning over into heroin, but now it is fentanyl. Fentanyl accounts for about half the deaths, the drug overdose deaths. And this is not just in the homeless population. I looked up the numbers, and of the 606 drug overdose deaths in Utah, this is back in 2023, 75 of those were from the homeless. So we have a broader, larger group of folks that are overdosing. Fentanyl seems to be the drug of choice, or at least it is laced in so many of the drugs. How does a police chief address such a massive issue that we haven't been able to address really at any point in our nation's history?
Yeah, I mean, the war on drugs has been difficult. And Debbie will remember, 20 years ago when we had this big push toward meth labs, and that was the drug of choice, and we wanted to shut them down, and we made it a much more serious crime. And I don't know, it's like, well, another drug fits the bill. And right now it's fentanyl. You know, we're trying to prevent those from coming in from China, from Mexico. There's certainly a big influx of fentanyl into our state, and it's a drug that's easy to break up into smaller quantities. It's a very, very potent drug. It's even far more potent than the OxyContins and those that it's sort of a substitute for. And it's a drug that it's just insidious, and I don't know what we're going to do about it. But the new chief's got to figure something out, because these overdose deaths can't just continue.
Yeah, Greg, thank you so much for your analysis on this. KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas, former prosecutor, now a defense attorney, also one of our hosts of Inside Sources right here on KSL News Radio, weighing in on the many layers of issues that the new chief of police will be dealt as he takes over the top office there at the Salt Lake City Police Department. We believe he will be confirmed, for lack of another word, tonight, or at least approved by the city council. And he was Mayor Mendenhall's, it seemed like, top and only choice. It's Brian Redd, formerly of the Utah Department of Corrections, and also has worked for Utah Highway Patrol in the past, and I know his resume is layered with other accomplishments, but that is the basics right there. I really want to drill this down to how this could impact one of our communities locally. Let's talk about the ballpark community in particular. And so often we turn to Amy Hawkins, who is the community council chair in that neighborhood, which is at about 13 South and in Main Street. Amy, am I pinpointing that on the map correctly?
You got that just right. Yeah, right
yeah,
at Smith's Ballpark.
So
right?
new chief of police, Dave and I were curious to know what your hopes are as somebody new takes over the Salt Lake City Police Department for your neighbors and your community.
Oh, I'm really excited about Chief Brian Redd. I've had the pleasure of serving with him on a community board, and he has impressed me, years ago. Could I follow up Greg Skorda's comment about, I just wanted to mention a bill that I think will help address this problem. Obviously, the fentanyl crisis is so big. There's never going to be just one solution. But I am really excited about Representative Tyler Clancy's House Bill 199, Substance Use Treatment and Enforcement Amendments. Part of that bill is about encouraging first responders to offer referrals to substance use or mental health services when they encounter an individual who has either intentionally or accidentally overdosed. I think that's a really important gap that we could hit. So if a police officer reverses an overdose with naloxone or Narcan, they can fall into a pattern where right then and there they can get that individual into services.
Yeah.
We like to think about that being a really important intervention point. And I hope to see that getting more people into detox.
Amy, thank you. It's interesting as we're talking to people in the community. We appreciate you joining us. I know in the ballpark community, this is something that the previous administration had sent resources and task force into your community to help with some crime issues. How does that move forward with the new administration and new visions? What are you hoping gets addressed now?
I'm really hoping to see our community level responsiveness, like our homeless resource center squads and our community liaison officers, be maintained and even strengthened. Those have been such an important resource in not only combating crime, but really building trust and relationships that have been rewarding on both sides. If you know who to call when you're experiencing something and you trust that they will show up for you, it's a big deal.
So what are some of the, just in a nutshell, some of the crimes that your neighbors are concerned about that are happening in that ballpark area?
Well, I do want to first say we have noticed a huge drop in our area since the spike that our city experienced in 2021 and 2022. I, chalk some of that up to the intense service that we got in the area around the ballpark. We also got a lot of good community-based policing where specific bad addresses were targeted, like commercial sites or residential sites that everybody knew that they were problems. And those addresses, just an individual bad business actor can have a huge outsized negative effect on a neighborhood. Those collaborations were really important.
Amy Hawkins is joining us right now, lives downtown, kind of in the 13th South Ballpark community. She's the community council chair. And Amy, when we're discussing oftentimes crime, it comes in waves, right? There's different things that come in. Is drugs the biggest concern that you've seen, or maybe the one point that has plagued this area?
Certainly drugs have been a huge problem out of some of those bad business addresses that I've mentioned. I think those problems create sort of an outsized sense of despair, too, because of the sense of folks don't know what to do about the problem, calling and reporting it and seeing people cycle through, just like you were saying before.
We appreciate you taking the time to join us. Amy Hawkins is in the ballpark community, in fact, is the community council chair. So thanks, Amy.
I think one of the other focuses, just in my view, has to be those response times that we talked to KSL5 investigative reporter Daniela Rivera about last week. She's done investigative reporting on police response times in Salt Lake City. I did as well when I was an investigative reporter. And in many cases, people just find the response times too long. You know, it's when I was doing the stories back several years ago, sometimes people were waiting till the next day. Now, this wasn't a priority one call where somebody was, their life was on the line, that they were waiting to the next day to be able to dispatch a police officer to. However, that feels like way too long if you're the one calling 911. So I think that is also going to have to be on the list of priorities as Chief Red takes over. I'm already calling him Chief. I'm assuming that that's going to happen today because, you call 911, you do expect within a reasonable amount of time a police officer to show up. Daniela's experience where she was confronted by a man in a parking garage, she called 911, wanted police to arrive, of course, ASAP for her own safety and certainly for fear and safety of others in that area. It was like, if I recall, it was like 3.5 hours before she got a phone call from a police officer.
And one of the challenges of a new police is finding the right balance of having patrol officers and folks in the community. And you have task force and you have detectives and you have various roles in the police department. And how do you find the right amount of people that are out there in the community, driving around, running patrol, answering calls, and then you have specialists as well. And I think that's going to be one of the big challenges of the new police chief, trying to figure out exactly how to balance all of this.
Yeah. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that with our team of reporters and producers throughout the day here. They'll be tracking the developments on that story. Straight ahead, more Americans moving out of the country, many of them moving to Spain. Is the grass really greener on the other side? We're going to talk to somebody who we know is actually from Spain. He's calling the show next.
Do you have some money in a savings account? If you do, I want to suggest that you earn more money on that money by transferring your savings account over to UCCU.
Utah Community Credit Union is offering high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.05%. That is a lot higher than any savings account.
Right, so your average savings account is 0.5%, 0.5%, but UCCU has these 9-month savings certificates at a whopping 5.05% rate of return.
Now, savings certificates, like a savings account, they're great ways to earn a safe return on your money, but the difference is a savings account, you deposit, you withdraw, but with a savings certificate, you just make the deposit and you let your money earn some money for you.
For 9 months in this case, or if you want to let it stay in a little longer and earn more money, there's a 15-month savings certificate as well. But either way, you're going to be saving so much money at UCCU.
5.05%, that's more than 5 times higher than a standard savings account.
Just go to UCCU.com, select a high-yield savings option, and supercharge your savings.
At Utah Community Credit Union, you're going to love where you bank.
Are you in search of a fulfilling career where you can work on a team that provides you room to grow, learn, and thrive every day? Focus Engineering and Surveying is looking for individuals to join their team who take pride in the customer service they provide and have a passion for their clients to be successful. No experience in engineering, CAD design, or surveying? No problem. Focus will train those who fit their team culture for rewarding careers in surveying and CAD design. If you can align with the core ideology and the Focus team culture, if you're internally driven, team-oriented, client-focused, and love personal development and growth, Focus Engineering and Surveying is the place for you. Enjoy a positive work environment and paid internship opportunities, plus fantastic benefits like great health care with 80% employer-paid premium and HSA matched up to $200 per month, 401k, vacation, even annual performance bonuses. Start your journey towards your new and fulfilling career. Apply now at FocusUtah.com. That's FocusUtah.com.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going. going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Is using separate office technology like business telephones, chat, video conferencing, and file transferring complicated and pricey? What if all of those things were bundled into one simple product that has over 99.9% uptime, crystal clear quality, and is affordable? And what if you could get your business telephone bundle from a proven office technology partner like Les Olson IT? You can.
Les Olson IT.
Hi, Susan. We haven't seen or heard from you.
Cold.
We would like to locate Joyce.
The mysteries that made podcast history
Cherie Warren disappeared.
are now together for free at KSLPodcasts.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, the host of Cold. Join me for Season 1, The Susan Powell Case Files, Season 2, Justice for Joyce, and Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Listen anytime for free at KSLPodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, a bill changing several key elements of the way we vote is moving forward in the state legislature. Representative Jefferson Burton says his bill keeps vote by mail but adds some more security.
To renew your vote by mail, it's as simple as when your driver's license is going to expire, there'll be a big block there for you to check, yes, I want to continue to vote by mail. And you can perennial and perpetually vote by mail in that way.
His bill requires voters to include the last four digits from an approved identification card, which could be a driver's license, social security card, or a number of other options. Several county clerks spoke out against the bill, which is currently in the Senate after passing the House. Police have arrested a suspect following a house fire in Salt Lake City. The fire reportedly started in a basement apartment near 366 West and 400 North last evening. Crews were able to put it out quickly and no one was hurt. Police haven't given many details on the suspect and they haven't listed the exact cause of the fire. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump will speak to the nation when he addresses a joint session of Congress at the U.S. Capitol tonight. The president is expected to talk about the war in Ukraine, tariffs, and other plans he wants to implement during his second term in the office. We will carry the speech live on KSL News Radio at 7 o'clock. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down this morning. Right now, 650 points at about a 1.5% to 42,536. Coming up, we've got one storm moving out with another one on the way. KSL weather and traffic are next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
These days, losing weight is such a roller coaster. You try the new medications, and when you stop taking them, you gain it all back.
Today is a new day. Today is a new day. Today is a new day.
Let Soda Weight Loss teach you the healthy, natural way to let go of the weight for good.
Do you know how good it feels to let go of 51 pounds of belly fat? And I did it without drugs, shots, or hunger. Because Soda Weight Loss works. Just look at all the Google reviews and all the thousands of before and after pictures.
For a limited time, 2 people can start with Soda Weight Loss for the price of one.
What does that mean? It's more fun?
Double the motivation, double the results, half the cost.
The best decision I've made in a long time was just to call Soda Weight Loss.
Take advantage of Soda Weight Loss 2-for-1 partner program. Visit sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Time for another check of traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's low-rate auto loans. Let's go to the KSL Traffic Center with Heather Kelly.
Well, right now we are delay-free all across the Wasatch Front, and most of the roadways have dried out in the valleys. But if you're going into the higher elevations, especially Parley's Canyon, that is still very wet. Snow continues to fall in Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons, where chains or four-wheel drive are required. And just a heads up, anybody in Little Cottonwood Canyon, it is going to shut down at 12 noon today for avalanche control. They expect it should reopen around 3 p.m., but if you're in there and you want to leave between 12 and noon, you won't be able to, so just be aware of that. Try UTA and get more done while you ride. Games, work, books, shows. You'll be too busy to notice all the traffic you're missing. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather now. If you want to know why Little Cottonwood Canyon is going to be closed for avalanche control, it's because, in part, Alta Resorts reporting over 20 inches of new snow from this latest storm. The skies will partially clear out this afternoon, but another bigger storm will arrive tomorrow afternoon and last into Friday morning. Right now, it's mostly cloudy and 43 degrees in Salt Lake, 41 degrees in Ogden, and 40 degrees in Provo. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Never been to Spain? Dave's been to Spain. But this story makes me wonder what I'm missing out when it comes to Spain, because I read this, Dave, on a website that the population in Spain has increased by 25% over the last 2 years of Americans. Americans are moving to Spain, and I want to know why. I also want to know, is the grass greener on the other side of the pond?
I chuckle because you're right. I've lived in Spain for a couple of years. I served my mission there. And I tell people all the time, Spain is unbelievable. It's gorgeous. The food is amazing. But touristy Spain and everyday living Spain is totally different. Just like touring the Grand Canyon and living in the Grand Canyon would be completely and totally different. Like anywhere, amazing countries out there to tour around and to vacation at, but it's a different life when you have to live there. And when you say, is the grass greener? Well, in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. There's things that I loved about Spain living that I've actually brought back to how I live my life now. But there's a lot of things that I missed while I was over in Spain.
Can you get specific? Like, what did you like
Peanut
about
butter. I missed peanut butter.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things I loved the culture of shopping daily. That was very common. You don't go to Costco in Spain and load up 3, huge tractors full of food and have a special Costco door in your pantry. You do not have that in Spain. Oh, okay. You go shopping on a daily basis. Everything's fresh. The bread is fresh. That's incredible. That is a very different way to live, and I loved it.
I know I've heard a lot of Hollywood actors claiming they're moving to Spain.
Oh, yeah. I always chuckle when if Trump wins, this is where I'm going. And they all throw out all of these places around the world. I'll never forget Chelsea Handler. Yeah, Spain was like top of her list.
I have a house in Spain that is going to be ready right after the election. Panama, Siberia, Nova Scotia. I'm definitely moving to Canada. Iceland, France.
Asia's pretty cool.
A lot of these places are really cool, but living there is not the same as vacationing there. But I did think it was funny that Chelsea Handler was like, I have a place purchased in Spain, and that's where I'm going if Trump wins. This was 9 years ago. She never moved.
Well, she's rich, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know what her net worth is, but she's a comedian. I'm sure she's rolling in some dough, right? But I'm reading this article from Travel and Leisure magazine from a 70-year-old retiree who sounds like she worked in the film industry for years, did not have a huge nest egg at the end of her career, and decided to pick up and move to an area of the country from the United States. She wanted to move from the United States to an area of the world where she could afford to live and retire, and she found that in Spain. And she'd spent a lot of years traveling the world for her job, but she decided to settle on Spain during a visit to Madrid. She said it was well-developed infrastructure, clean, convenient, and affordable public transportation, safe streets, friendly people. Felt like the climate and the beaches were a lot like what she'd seen in Southern California. Lots of museums, parks, and places to eat she really enjoyed, and she found it more affordable. So I want to get with Carlos Artiles. I always say your name right, Carlos, even though we work together. I say it wrong, excuse me. Artiles Fortune?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Fortune. I always say it wrong, so I got it right this time. We work together here at KSL News Radio. Now you work up on Capitol Hill, and we miss you. And we miss working with you, Carlos.
Miss you guys a lot. How you guys doing, Dave and Debbie? I do want to say, Dave, if your primary reason to not going to Spain is not having peanut butter, I have good news. Is that you can find peanut butter more easily now at shops in Spain.
Finally, it's all solved. I'm moving.
So did you grow up in Spain, Carlos?
I did. I grew up in Spain until I was 15, and then I moved to Utah. Went to high school here, and then I just found my wife and I stayed here.
Yeah, okay, so love that you stayed here. But tell me what the benefits are to living in Spain.
I feel there's so many. I did live in Spain. After I graduated for a little bit, and I would have to say, for me, the social aspect of Spain is probably the biggest difference that I find with the U.S. The fact that you can go out of your house and there's a coffee spot or restaurants, it's a lot cheaper to just go out and eat and meet with people. And it's something that is done a lot. When I was in Spain, I used to go out with different groups of friends, with family, cousins. Every day of the week, I would do something. And I find that's a little bit harder here because you have to maybe drive 30 minutes. And it's like a bigger commitment to do that here than to do it there. So I think for me, the social aspect is just a huge win to going in Spain, for example.
One of the things that stood out to me, Carlos, was in Spain, just how common it was for families to just go walking in the park. And that was something that was absolutely, like, every night, so common. You'd go out, you'd visit with people, you'd walk, you'd get out. I don't know if that's changed since the beginning of the smartphone, or if Spain has been able to hang on to that, get out and go on a little walk.
No, that's still in. I was there, this past Christmas. I have a daughter. She's 5. We were going to the park almost every day, park full of kids. She was meeting new people. We were going to the beach. We were going out. It's just so easy to disconnect and just get out of the house if you need to, and just walk, right? When I was living in Spain, I didn't own a car. You can just go in the bus. It's really easy to get everywhere. You want to go to the beach, if you want to go to the mountains, if you're in the center, like you said, going shopping. I have a store 5 minutes from my house that every day I would go down and shop real quick for whatever I needed that day. It's not like a big shopping spree that I have to do. And everything's just a lot cheaper, especially if you're living off a salary in the U.S., like if it's a retirement, everything's a lot cheaper. And just recently, the dollar went above the euro. So it's even more of a benefit now if you're an American to go out to Spain, because it's going to be even cheaper for you.
So talk to me, and we only have about a minute left. Is healthcare free in Spain? It's
paid by the taxpayers, but yes, it's essentially would be free that
free
way.
To me is what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So taxes are a lot higher for that reason, but you can even have private healthcare, which competes with the free. So, if you wanted to have things done a little bit quicker and everything,
you get the private.
You could go either route.
Okay. And then what about the cost of like renting an apartment in Spain compared to, the average $1,500 to $1,600 a month rent here in Salt Lake City? What do you know about that?
It really depends on the area. If you're in Madrid or Barcelona, the big cities, that's going to be very expensive. But areas like where I live in the Canary Islands, you can find a good, decent-sized apartment for $800. You could perfectly find something easy like that.
And what about housing, like to buy a house there?
I would say it's a lot cheaper than the U.S. market. but it is getting expensive. And I think Spain's dealing with a lot of people coming from outside and buying property. So they're definitely dealing with that, and they're coming up with some laws because it is getting a little bit expensive for Spaniards. But if you're coming from outside, I think you'll find it relatively cheaper.
Carlos, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
So Dave's lived
Thank
abroad. Carlos obviously grew up abroad. So I want to ask our listeners, have you lived abroad? Where have you lived? Is the grass greener on the other side of the world? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. We're going to take your live calls next.
Dave and Dujanovic. Are you asking for Dave and Debbie everywhere?
Just say, Alexa, play KSL News Radio.
And stream them on your phone. The KSL News Radio app.
You know Master Electrical Service? You've seen for years, since the 50s, Master Electrical vans driving around, and they've been serving in your community. Well, Master Electrical Service has now joined forces to create this great new company, Mountain Home Services.
So if you have a list of things that you've got to get done at your house, just listen. This is like one-stop shopping. You can call them for your electrical needs. You can call them if you need an EV charger. You need a quote on that. You need a new generator. Recessed lighting you need installed. And they also will work on your HVAC, your heating and air, and your plumbing.
So it's one-stop shopping. You don't need to make a million different calls if you need some stuff done at your house. And then you can develop that relationship and say, hey, can you guys come out? Let's make a long-term plan. Maybe I want to start with recessed lighting and then eventually move over to some new heating and air, plumbing, fireplace, all that stuff. When you're dealing with the same company, you have that quality assurance.
That's right. It all comes with that upfront pricing guarantee, too. That means the price that they quote you at the beginning of the job is the price you pay when the job is done.
Make sure you check them out. It's mountainhomeservices.com. That is the website, mountainhomeservices.com.
Or you can also call them. They'd love to hear from you. 801-543-2222. Again, that phone number, 801-543-2222.
Jackson Hewitt wants you to save money on tax prep. We're saving money by having our intern rap in this commercial.
Don't stress, Jackson Hewitt's got expert tax prep, $149 or less. Yo, some tax guys lie about price. They got hidden fees, that ain't nice. Don't ignore MC Kevin's rhyme, cause this deal's for a limited time. $149.
For tax prep that's $149 or less, hurry into Jackson Hewitt today.
No cap.
Limited time offer for new clients on federal returns. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com/149.
It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. And the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then you spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We just spoke to our former colleague, Carlos. Did he produce our show for a while? I think he did. He now works up on Utah's Capitol Hill. But he grew up in Spain. And with his stat that I'm looking at here, the statistic, a lot of news articles talking about Americans moving to Spain. It seems like there's been a huge influx of Americans. It's like a 25% increase in the last few years of Americans, of just the last 2 years of Americans moving to Spain. And they're picking Spain, from what my read is on it, is a large part because it's affordable and they like people like the culture and the lifestyle there. Carlos certainly had, since he grew up there, he had his own pitch.
I thought there's so many. I did live in Spain. After I graduated for a little bit, and I would have to say, for me, the social aspect of Spain is probably the biggest difference that I find with the U.S. The fact that you can go out of your house and there's a coffee spot or restaurants, it's a lot cheaper to just go out and eat and meet with people.
The culture is fantastic. One of the things I will always love about my time in Spain is you would be walking through the streets and you would have people playing music and doing flamenco dancing. Like there'd just be these dances in streets and these big, beautiful outfits. And it is very culturally rich. I mean, we're talking about a country that has not been around like us for 250, 60, 70 years. We're talking about a country that's been around for 1,000 years or thousands of years, right? This is so rich, so it's wonderful that way. And there's a lot of things I loved about Spain. I also think we romanticize a lot about countries that we visited or we vacationed in, and living is much different than vacationing.
So explain that, since you lived there for 2 years while you served your mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What was your experience living there? And how do you think it would compare or not compare to somebody like people who are retiring there, for example? I read an article in Travel and Leisure magazine about a 70-year-old woman who had decided to sell things here in the United States and give up her U.S. lifestyle. She worked, in the film industry for decades and moved to Spain because she liked the culture and she liked the cost of living was a lot less and those types of things.
There's two different things. I think if you're looking at, hey, I'm retiring, I have my 401k, I have my money, I'm going to live there on an American salary, so to speak, in Spain, that is highly appealing. Finding work there, raising a family, finding high-paying jobs, that is far more difficult. The average wage in Spain is about $33,000 a year. Here in America, it's in the 60s, so it's twice as much money. So yeah, when we hear some of these home prices, and you're like, oh, I can get an apartment for $700-800. Well, you have to remember they're not pulling in money that in the salaries that we're bringing in here in America. So it's very different. You have to understand it's a depressed economy compared to America. So the dollar doesn't stretch as far as it does. If you're bringing American dollars over into Spain, that's a different conversation.
So like you're working for an American company and your home base is Spain.
Yes.
Or if you're retired and you're pulling in a pension or whatever you're living off of, maybe it's Social Security. I'm not sure how that shakes out. Don't quote me on any of that. I don't know how you can collect. I guess if you worked in America and you collect Social Security, you qualify for it no matter maybe where you are. But so that might make sense for some people. What you're saying is not for all.
If you're going to go over there, raise your family, get a job, do not expect American wages.
Yeah, that's what Carlos said.
Yeah.
He also said that healthcare can be free. There's the free healthcare course, the taxpayers fund it, but also that you can buy into a private healthcare plan as well. So those are options. That's intriguing to me. He did say that apartments rents there are a lot less. Like I asked about, how does it compare to the $1,500 to $1,600 a month that people are paying if they want to live near the downtown area? If you want to have that same kind of lifestyle where you step outside your door and you're able to step into a restaurant within a block, it's not exactly the same, but it sounds like that's what they do in Spain or can do. Like, what was that? And he said, oh, yeah, apartments are basically like half the price of what people are paying for a monthly rent here. So I guess it can be all relative. If you're making half of the median
salary,
income,
right. Yeah, then you can afford half the apartment cost. Another thing that really stood out to me was how small the apartments were. We come from Utah, where do we live? On a quarter-acre lot, right? And we have a 3,000 square foot house or a 2,500 square foot house. That's pretty standard. I never spent any time, never lived in anything nearly that big. All of our apartments were pretty modest, very small. And this wasn't just because we were living frugally as missionaries. This was everybody that we lived or visited in Spain. They just live in very modest apartments. Another funny little thing, quirk about Spain when I was living there is they don't have natural gas piped into the apartments. So what they would do is they would drive around with essentially propane tanks, and you would shout out from your window, you're like, hey, I need 2. And you would take the propane tanks, bring them up into your apartment, hook them in, and then that's how you heated your water. That's how you heated your showers. It was just in propane tanks. And you would have to get those every week and make sure that you didn't run out.
I wouldn't last. I wouldn't last because I have a fear of propane tanks. I just have this fear. I have one out in the backyard of my house for years, and I'm like, I don't want to.
Oh, Debbie, there were thousands of propane
it.
tanks in an apartment
I don't know
complex.
How well I would do that.
All
okay,
loose.
That may be a game changer for me. I'm glad you gave me that little tip. If you've ever moved, you know what a stressful process it is, even if you just move across the valley. When I did it a few years ago, I felt the weight of the world on me. You know, every piece of paper that needs to be signed at the most inopportune times when you're super duper busy at work, you're trying to fax things, still faxing things, email things, pack everything up, get out of the house so you can show the house, all the stuff. Well, I'm looking at this immigration process that this woman went through. By the way, Dave and I talking about moving to a foreign country and that many Americans are choosing Spain, which just intrigued the heck out of me. I was like, why Spain? Well, it sounds fabulous for a lot of reasons. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but it sounds fabulous. But she ends up having to, she's 70 years old. She's going to retire in Spain. I think she was living in New Mexico and decided to pack up, or maybe it was Texas. She got to get all the required documents, including an FBI report, a health certificate, bank statements. You got to translate that to Spanish by a certified interpreter. You got to submit the application to the Spanish consulate. Then you get your visa after a few weeks, and then you got to sell or give away most of your possessions. I'm exhausted just looking at this to-do list.
By the way, you got to learn a language too.
Yeah, you can't speak English there, right?
Yeah.
Well,
you're going to speak Spanish.
Is that a Rosetta Stone thing?
Oh yeah, you're definitely going to have to lean heavy into Rosetta Stone. And another thing about Spain, Portugal, you were talking about healthcare. Portugal and Spain are actually will allow you to buy into the public healthcare programs, but you do have to buy into it. I'm not sure how much money that is,
I would
but
imagine because you haven't paid taxes.
Yeah, you haven't paid taxes on it, so you have to buy into it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll put that one on the back burner for now with my propane tank.
You'd love tapas, though.
Yeah,
tapas are great.
Okay. Straight ahead, President Trump set to address a joint session of Congress tonight. White House saying President's theme tonight is renewal of the American dream. So we're going to talk live in just a few moments with our KSL Inside Sources co-host, Adam Gardner, about what he expects the president will talk about tonight, including tariffs. Next.
Dave and Dujanovic. Are you asking for Dave and Debbie everywhere?
Just say, Alexa, play KSL News Radio.
And stream them on your phone. The KSL News Radio app.
I've been telling you guys for years how efficient the Kinetico water softener is and how reliable it is. I don't ever want to think about my water softener. I just want it to work 24/7, never run out of soft water. Well, with the Kinetico water softeners, not only are they reliable, but they're efficient. They use 2/3 less salt than other water softeners. And I'll tell you, this is how they do it. There are several ways. So consider this. Part 1 in the series, most softeners use a finicky, hard-to-adjust computer to kind of guesstimate when to cycle. And then it errs on the side of cycling too often. So that can mean it will just burn through way too much salt way too soon. But Kinetico is different. It has an all-mechanical system that measures water use precisely. There's no computer, no guesstimating. It cycles only when needed. And the result is Kinetico delivers perfectly soft water 24/7 using the minimum amount of salt. So why not save that lower back pain from carrying all those bags of salt? Instead of 3 bags of salt, you only have to carry 1. Call Northern Utah's authorized Kinetico dealer, Kinetico Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake. Go ahead and call them 801-576-8600. That's 801-576-8600. Or log on to softwaterutah.com and tell them Dave sent you.
Ooh, ma. What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business calm at ooma.com/radio.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
At Intermountain Children's Health, we've created a bold plan called Primary Promise to build the nation's model health system for children. Help us achieve this once-in-a-generation vision so together we can bring the world-class care of Primary Children's Hospital closer to home for every child in our communities. For more than a century, Primary Children's has kept the child first and always. Join us for the next 100 years. To learn more, visit primarypromise.org.
Get a head start on the warmer months ahead with a $29 AC tune-up from Yes Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Electric. Yes offers licensed technicians and an exceptional service guarantee to give you peace of mind and help prevent expensive breakdowns. Ensure your system is working at peak efficiency and help save money on energy costs with a $29 AC tune-up from Yes Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Electric. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions. Just say yes.
Febreze.
It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. And the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then you spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
This is the story of the one. As a quality technician in a food processing center, she knows that making the right call is the best way to avoid a recall. That's why she trusts Grainger's world-class supply chain to deliver the high-quality supplies she needs to help keep her production line, her equipment, and her customers happy and healthy. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour is developing news. Students at West Haven Elementary School had the day off after a fire started in the bathroom this morning before classes began. The Weber School District says the fire was put out relatively quickly, but there was some water damage from the sprinklers. School's expected to resume tomorrow. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Tariffs on imported goods from Mexico and Canada went into effect today. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau slammed the tariffs as counterproductive in a speech this morning while announcing that Canada is imposing double-digit tariffs.
Markets are down, and inflation is set to rise dramatically all across your country.
Investors aren't excited about these tariffs. Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver tells Utah's Morning News the markets could be shaky for weeks, if not months.
Now, a lot of it is uncertainty. Uncertainty is kryptonite for investors. Big investors like to sell first and ask questions later. And when you can't see the future, that's kind of what they're doing.
Silver says talking about more tariffs coming in April will keep investors from being eager to buy up stocks. He suggests people should just ride this out and be prepared to see the economy slow down for the first quarter and beyond. And a look at those markets. Wall Street deep in the red today. The Dow taking the biggest hit, down 659 points. S&P's lost 75. NASDAQ down 138. Coming up, best to keep your umbrella out for the rest of the week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 11:02.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
One of the things that Utah is known for is their dedication to emergency preparedness. As a culture, as a community, this has been something that we've been very focused on for a long time. And BeReadyUtah.gov has been a great resource. Joining us right now is the Emergency Preparedness and Outreach Specialist, Brian Stinson. As we talk about emergency preparedness with Be Ready Utah, What are some of the things that we should be thinking of and have top of mind?
Well, emergency preparedness is all about helping you and your family be ready for whatever may happen. Unfortunately, a lot of times we get into a mindset that it hasn't happened in my lifetime or where I'm living, so maybe nothing's going to happen and I'll just be safe. Be Ready Utah was created to help people understand that whether it's 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days, or 3 weeks, depending on an emergency happening, it could be that long, like I said, 3 minutes, hours, days, before organized help is able to come and help you. You're in a car accident, something. You don't immediately have people there helping you. So you need to maybe know some first aid. That's a personal emergency. Now, something that we talk about often in Utah are earthquakes. Something large scale like that, it could be days or longer before you and your family are able to get outside help from the state or local emergency management and rescue. The whole purpose of Be Ready Utah is to help people understand I need to be able to be self-reliant for a given period of time. We have the resources to help you. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be scary. But you can go to bereadyutah.gov, and there's so many resources that are free to help you understand how you can make plans. What kinds of things do I need to get together so that my family, we can get through this with confidence, with some dignity, and maybe even some comfort. I mean, we went through the pandemic in 2020, and how many of us didn't have toilet paper? Right?
That's so true. It's such a great resource. I love the website, and there's so many different elements to it. If you are interested in emergency preparedness, not quite sure where to start, great resource is bereadyutah.gov. Bereadyutah.gov.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? Yikes. When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Here's how to get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Plans start at just $20 a month, and that's not a short-term promo. Our U.S.-based experts will get you switched and saving in about 20 minutes. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-859-6688. 800-859-6688. 800-859-6688.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's low-rate auto loans. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, the restrictions have been lifted getting into Big and Little Cottonwood Canyon, so you no longer need chains or four-wheel drive. But just a heads up, Little Cottonwood Canyon is closing at 12 noon today for avalanche control, so that means you won't be able to get in or out of the canyon between 12 and 3 this afternoon. Otherwise, you've got a good drive across the Wasatch Front, especially on I-15, as the roadways are drying out. From the creators of Thriller, Odyssey Dance Theater invites you to their spring production, Shut Up and Dance, April 2nd through the 5th. Tickets on sale now at odysseydance.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Yesterday's storm system is clearing out today, but more storms expected to move in tomorrow afternoon. Expect a mix of snow and rain in the valleys through Friday. By the time this thing moves out, we could see a few inches of snow on valley floors, up to 2 feet in the Cottonwood Canyons. Right now it's 43 degrees and mostly cloudy. I'm Jessica Lowe from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. America's top political story. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, President Trump is set to address a joint session of Congress tonight. And we're going to talk right now about, and I want you to think about this. What do you want to hear from the president as he stands before Congress? This is not his State of the Union address. That comes down the road. This is a joint session of Congress where he's going to get up and talk about, according to the White House, what the president sees as the renewal of the American dream. But again, I ask, what do you want to hear from him? In a moment, we're going to have some live analysis with one of our coworkers here, co-host of Inside Sources, Adam Gardner, who's going to join the conversation. But a big topic of discussion, no doubt, for the president and for many Americans today is tariffs and the implementation of new tariffs as of today on Canada and Mexico, Dave.
And tariffs could sting. We could see the very things we purchase at the grocery store go up. The lumber that we purchase, that could go up as well. And none of us like this. None of us like the idea of paying more for stuff. But I'll never forget one of the first stories that we did on this show. Do you remember when Notre Dame burned down?
The cathedral.
When the cathedral burned down. We were watching that unfold. And I remember it took 182 years to build Notre Dame Cathedral. It was this big, beautiful cathedral. And in a matter of hours, it just burned down. Well, we have spent decades creating all sorts of debt. We have $36 trillion of debt over decades. It can't just go up in flames overnight. There is not a silver bullet that will fix this in a moment. So we cannot just wipe away this problem instantaneously. So are there going to be some growing pains as the answer tariffs? I don't know if they are. But that's what I'm listening for tonight in President Trump's address. He's going to have to convince us why we have to accept the fact that some things are going to be more expensive over the short term.
Yeah, we'll get more into details about what our expectations are for the president's speech tonight before Congress when Adam Gardner joins the show in just a few moments. Of course, co-host of Inside Sources. He'll be calling in just a minute. But I want to get with Todd Bingham. He's the president of the Utah Manufacturing Association. And Dave, you've been texting with Todd this morning to get him to join the show. And Todd, thank you so much for your willingness to jump on the air with us regarding the impact of tariffs. I don't know if you can go into specifics about what the extra costs might be for your association members, but certainly I'm hoping we can get at least your reaction to this announcement today of the president imposing more tariffs on China and additionally tariffs of 25% on Mexico and imports from Canada. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Happy Tariff Tuesday, as we're calling it, right? But let me just, Debbie and Dave, let me just give you a couple of stats first, maybe set the stage for the manufacturing side. 56% of the goods that are imported to the U.S. are used as manufacturing inputs. So pretty high number there. Almost 60% of the imports that come from Mexico are used for inputs to manufacturing, and 70% of the imports that come from Canada are used for manufacturing inputs. So we get a lot of raw product material from Canada and Mexico, which goes into our manufacturing products. And I think that's what's causing some of the concern and the uncertainty is what does that mean? Companies are analyzing just rapidly, where does our supply chain come from? What are our options to look elsewhere? I talked with a company this morning that said 90% of our inputs are coming out of the U.S. That's for them. They said, we think we're okay. Multiple other companies that said, in the food arena, for instance, we can talk a little more about that. But if you're a food manufacturer here in the U.S., not only is it from an import standpoint of getting raw materials, but it's also when you look to export that product.
Todd, can you walk us back just a little bit? Because President Trump actually, in his first term, imposed some tariffs. Yeah, I remember the steel tariffs back in 2019. What was that experience, and how is it different this time around, or are you looking at these tariffs differently than the first go-around?
That's a complicated question, Dave, but I think you are correct. When we first saw the tariffs, the assumption was that many of our U.S. manufacturers are not using Canada or American steel or aluminum, and that's just not accurate. Most of our companies are using Canadian and U.S. steel, and then using Chinese steel as well. And so kind of what happens with that a little bit, and it happened back then on the first round, was you see an increase due to the tariff, and that increase typically doesn't tend to go away. And so that's where you start to look at the artificial potential increase on raw products. And that's where manufacturers have got to determine, well, what does that mean to us as we're manufacturing a product, and where does that increased cost go? Is it something that is just absorbed by the organization? Is it something that is passed on to the contract with whomever they're or manufacturing the product for? If it's a consumer product or a food product, does it get passed on to the retailer, and then the retailer moves that along? Those are all questions that every company is trying to determine what happens and where they go.
And Todd, I'm glad you brought that up. By the way, we're speaking live right now to Todd Bingham. He's the president of the Utah Manufacturing Association here in our state. And one of the many issues that President Donald Trump is going to address tonight in his address to Congress will be tariffs, and that's specifically what we're talking to Todd about right now, is the impact on Utah businesses and potentially the cost to consumers as well. And in fact, Robert Spendlove, he's a senior economist at Zions Bank. I'm sure you've recognized that name, Todd. He broke down a few items for us earlier on the show, in the 9 o'clock hour of the show, that could be impacted by tariffs. So let's listen to what Robert said. It's about a 30-second audio clip here, and then I want to get your reaction to it.
We're still trying to figure out the exact impact, but just this morning, Target was talking about it, and they said they're going to start raising prices on strawberries, bananas, avocados. Home Depot said we're going to see higher prices on lumber. We're going to see higher prices on electronics coming from China, and even fuel. A lot of our fuel comes from Canada, and we're going to see impacts of that as well. So there's really kind of a broad swath of where we'll see these price impacts at home.
When you hear Robert say that, what is your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I read that same article by the Target CEO, and let me give you an example of here in Utah, a major food manufacturer. You know, this morning we saw the market took a considerable drop on major, corn, wheat, soy. We're major producers and exporters of those in the U.S. We're also a major importer of sugar, coffee, coconut, cocoa. The tariffs are going to cause an increase, a direct cost increase on those products. So if you're a food manufacturer, consumers can expect that product is probably going to go up. Then you've got indirect costs for equipment and freight, those types of things that as you start to look at the tariff issue, and then, I think one of the things that manufacturers are looking at is that we really need to be able to focus on trade agreements. And we really need to get these good trade agreements in place, whether that's the USMCA, U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, and focusing on trade policy, trying to help us, restore the balance and not be disruptive, try and get through these trade issues. And we understand that China is a different animal, but when you just break it down from a Canada-Mexico standpoint, Utah is like most of the states around us that are heavily dependent on those two largest trade importers. And I think it's safe to say that there will be some cost increase. And again, from a broad manufacturing standpoint, whether you're in the steel business, the plastics, whether you're in carbon fiber, food, or raw materials, they're just simply trying to analyze what does this mean for us. And I heard just briefly as I was listening to you guys before you came on, three things the market doesn't bear well is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And uncertainty is causing capital to kind of freeze a little bit. And so I think that's definitely going to have an impact through at least, second, third quarter of this year till we see how things settle down. I, too, am interested to see what the president says this evening.
Todd Bingham, thank you so much for joining us, the president of Utah Manufacturing Association.
Yeah, let's switch the phone lines over to our very own Adam Gardner, co-host of Inside Sources. Let's talk about more in depth where Todd left off there, Adam, and what your expectations are from the president tonight as he addresses Congress. I've got mine and Dave's got his list, but why don't you go first?
Well, I think this is just going to be a victory lap, to be honest with you. He's going to say, I've been in office for just over a month now, and look at all that I've done for you people. And I think he's just going to be saying all the good things that he's done. And there are a couple of good things that he has done. The border crossings are at an all-time low, and I think that's great. Most Republicans and even a lot of Democrats can get on board with that. Then he's going to go into some weightier issues. He's going to be talking about the tariffs. There's a reason he announced that it would be taking place today, because he wanted to mention it in his speech. I don't think there was any room for Mexico or Canada to make improvements that he said he wanted. Even though they have made improvements, he's still going to attack them anyway, and we've just started a trade war. Then he's going to be talking about DOGE, all the good they've done, and all the waste, fraud, and abuse that they have found, and that remains to loyalists and critics to squabble over whether they really have found any. But those are a couple of the things that he's going to be mentioning tonight.
I don't know if we've ever seen, at least in recent memory, and maybe this is just my recency bias, and typically the first 100 days in an administration are, foot to the floor, putting all the gas in. But boy, this seems like these first several weeks have been unlike anything we've seen in the past.
Well, he's done a lot if you consider he signed about 80 executive orders. So you can argue that he's done more than any other president. Most of the time, Republicans are not huge fans of executive orders unless it's their guy that's doing them. So, yes, you can argue that he's done a lot. The problem is Congress has not really done anything. They haven't checked his power. I know our local delegation here in Utah is fantastic, and they're smart and capable. But Congress as a whole really hasn't done anything. They haven't checked his power. He's kind of dared them, and they've been able to just step back. And in fact, Mike Johnson, when asked what they're going to be talking about tonight, what the president's going to be speaking about tonight, he said, there's going to be fireworks. This is going to be must-see TV. And that seems to be what we're in for. It's a show. It's a spectacle. I don't know how much substance or new information we're going to get out of the speech tonight.
So we talk about, the tariffs being implemented, the ones today of 25% to Mexico and Canada. Talk about all of the federal workers getting fired, some of them within short order being recalled, but many of them still out of a job. And then, jobless claims that they're in search of now or they are applying for could certainly impact the job market and unemployment rate down the road. You see the stock market going down 500 points today. It went down significantly yesterday, about 600 points, I think it was, at least the Dow. I guess what I'm looking for from the president, I don't know if I'm going to get it based on what you just said, Adam, is where are you taking us? Like, where are you taking us as Americans, and where are our pocketbooks going to end up when we get to the end of the first year, and then the second year, and then the fourth year? Like, what's the path, and where? How is my budget going to look if I'm impacted by tariffs, if car prices go up, if avocado prices go up, if all the things, and then additionally, there's a whole lot of people who are out of work and filing jobless claims who can't afford to make ends meet. I need to hear from the president. What's the end game here? Like, where are we going?
That's a great question. Caroline Leavitt said that President Trump's press secretary, that President Trump has accomplished more in 1 month than any president in 4 years. And the renewal of the American dream is well underway. So that's going to be kind of the theme, is the renewal of the American dream. I feel like what he's going to say is, hey, it's going to be tough for a little while, but this is a corrective course that needs to happen. We're going to have all these tariffs. We're not going to allow agriculture to ship outside the United States because it can be too expensive. We're going to have to eat our own food. We're going to have to buy American. That's going to make prices go up significantly, at least $2,000 this year for the average American family. So when you combine that with inflation from the last administration, we're in a world of hurt. So his message is going to be, hey, I know we're in a world of hurt, but just trust me, this will get better.
That's one of the most difficult things to sell. And we know that the Trump administration has embraced the Argentinian president, Javier Milei, who has made massive cuts. This is kind of where Doge was inspired, was to make these huge cuts to the federal government. But part of what the Argentinian people have embraced is this austerity, is that we're going to have to suffer in the short term for the long-term health. How do you deliver that message, or what part of that message do you think can resonate with Americans? Because austerity has never been our strongest, our biggest strength.
Well, you look at inflation in Argentinian inflation, and it was significantly higher than it was in the United States. Drastic cuts, government spending needed to happen in a socialist economy, and he's a free market guy. President Trump is not a free market, free trade guy. He's a protectionist tariff guy. And so they have very different messages, even though their styles are a lot the same. I think the difference is in background. President Trump's is in business and TV and real estate mogul, whereas in the Argentinian president, Javier Milei, he is an actual economist. So he understands how the dollar works, how the economy works. Two very different approaches to the free market and to free trade across the world. So he's going to try to align. I don't think he actually is going to try to align himself with anyone but himself. He's going to say what he wants to say, whether it's true or not, and whether America can hold out for 3-4 years until we see his plan being implemented to see if it works.
Adam, when is Congress put to the test on this? Is the real test going to come when they're trying to negotiate this budget deal? I mean, they're trying to negotiate it right now.
You know, that's going to be that's a really good point. We've seen President Trump make promises on we're not going to tax you on tips, we're not going to tax other things, we're going to lower the capital gains tax, and he wants to lower the capital gains tax to 0 for crypto, which is insane. And Congress has an opportunity to actually say, no, this is the purview of Congress. We're going to do this, and we're going to put it in our budget resolutions. And whether they do that or not, I think that remains to be seen, because in the House of Representatives, you still have probably 20 that are going to go along with Trump no matter what he says. And in the Senate, it's a little bit different. More Democrats will come on board with the Republican plan, so the far right and the populists won't get much of a say. But it's going to be a problem with Congress. They're going to have an opportunity to do something. But so far in these last 2 months, they have not shown any willingness to push back against President Trump.
Adam Gardner, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We look forward to listening to you on Inside Sources. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, more coverage on the president's speech to Congress tonight coming up on Inside Sources. And, of course, with Jeff Kaplan this afternoon when he takes over the microphone at 3 o'clock. Straight ahead, Dave spotted this story on KSLTV.com that Murray Police Department using a more inviting space to speak to survivors of crime. Dave, what stood out to you in that story?
Well, number one, I think this is oftentimes for victims of crime the worst day of their life. They've already been traumatized. And when you bring them into the police station and you put them in an interrogation room that is very cold, that is bleak, that is Spartan, this is not an inviting or welcoming or comforting place. So I really appreciate that Murray City has looked at this and said, listen, when we have victims that are speaking to investigators, let's make it let's try not to make it as traumatizing. So I really like the steps they moved.
Let's get Daniela Rivera on the line straight ahead from the KSL5 investigative team. She's calling the show to walk us through what this interview room looks like.
These days, losing weight is such a roller coaster. You try the new medications, and when you stop taking them, you gain it all back.
Today is a new day.
Today is a new day. Let Soda Weight Loss teach you the healthy, natural way to let go of the weight for good.
Do you know how good it feels to let go of 51 pounds of belly fat? And I did it without drugs, shots, or hunger. Because Soda Weight Loss works. Just look at all the Google reviews and all the thousands of before and after pictures.
For a limited time, 2 people can start with Soda Weight Loss for the price of 1.
What does that mean? It's more fun?
Double the motivation, double the results. Half half the cost.
The best decision I've made in a long time was just to call Soda Weight Loss.
Take advantage of Soda Weight Loss 2-for-1 partner program. Visit sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
I will never forget one of the stories that stuck with me more than anything in my career was the flooding that was happening down in St. George about 20-something years ago. Absolutely incredible to watch the rivers sweep away entire homes. So I'm excited to talk to Brian Stinson with Be Ready Utah. And Brian, we don't see a lot of natural disasters here in Utah, but when they do, they resonate with us, and I think it's such a great reminder. What are we doing to stay ready? Let's talk specifically about flooding preparedness.
Okay. Well, let me clarify what you said there. We do see a lot of natural disasters. They're just not huge, large scale. Now, we are expecting the earthquake, and we'll talk about that in the next segment, but we see flooding and wildfires every single year.
True.
And those can be really large, and they can be really expensive. In fact, flooding is the most expensive natural disaster that happens in the nation.
So what can we do to stay prepared in our own homes, Brian?
Well, some things that we can do. One, know that this is the time of year where we start getting a lot of melt, snow melts. We start getting any place that it rains, you can get flooding. Some things you can do in your home. You can make sure that you have a backflow in your plumbing, a backflow valve. Get a plumber to do that. That's just something that prevents the sewers and everything from backing up into your home. That's a good thing to prevent.
Yeah.
You also want to make sure that you are signed up for any the alerts for your local area. Check your county websites and make sure that you're signed up for those, so that if an alert happens where you are, you need to evacuate, you'll get that alert. Other things, make sure you have your disaster supply kit. Go to bereadyutah.gov and check out our disaster supply kit list. Help you understand what to put into that, and know that this is the time of year to prepare for that. Don't walk into floodwaters. You don't know what's underneath it.
Yeah, it's an incredible resource online at bereadyutah.gov. I'm looking at a flood hazard map right now. So if you need some resources, there's so much information. Just go to bereadyutah.gov.
Take advantage of Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric's $99 or it's free mainline drain clearing special. That's right, $99 or it's free. Feel secure knowing the trusted professionals at Yes guarantee that if we can't clear it, you don't pay for it. Whether it's a small clog or a larger mainline sewer drain issue, the experienced technicians at Yes are ready to solve all of your drain problems. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel neglected or unloved? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. Students at West Haven Elementary were evacuated this morning after a fire broke out in one of their bathrooms. The Weber School District says this happened before classes began, so students were taken straight from the drop-off to a nearby church. Classes were canceled for the day, but district officials say students should be back in school tomorrow. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Ahead of President Trump's address to Congress tonight, Trump placed all U.S. military aid to Ukraine on hold.
The reason for doing this is because they say the president is committed to a peace agreement, and they want to see President Zelensky meet him there. This is what we keep hearing from White House officials. They did not believe Zelensky came to the White House to negotiate in good faith, and he is not ready for a peace deal. Now, Zelensky has pushed back strongly on that, saying he absolutely is, and that is what he wants to see for his country.
ABC's Karen Travers reporting. Ukrainian President Zelensky says last week's blow-up with Trump was regrettable. He says Ukraine is ready to sign a deal on its rare earth minerals and security with Washington. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 598 points. The S&P is down 67 points. And coming up, rain and snow showers are back tomorrow. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 11:31.
A reminder reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
When it comes to great deals on tax prep, Jackson Hewitt isn't holding back, and neither is this commercial. Their offer is so big, it has to be said with Reverb. Expert tax prep for $149 or less. It's a deal so spectacular, it needs a symphony, some explosions, and a clock ticking, because this offer, $149 or less. And soon, one expert tax prep for $149 or less. Try Jackson Hewitt today and save. Whew. Limited time offer for new clients on federal returns. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com/149.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-838-6161. That's 800-838-6161. 800-838-6161.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's low-rate auto loans. Here's Ricky Meese.
We are back to a quiet drive on all the valley freeways and major secondaries, and roads in places are drying out, but we do want to give you a heads up. Little Cottonwood Canyon is scheduled to close at around noon, and that's for avalanche mitigation. We'll keep you posted as to when it reopens. Looking for Saturday morning fun for your kids? Try Utah Symphony's family concerts at Abravanel Hall. Kids tickets start at $6. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The showers have mostly dried out and are done for the rest of today. Partly cloudy and a high of 48 this afternoon. The storms come back tomorrow afternoon and continue into Thursday. Right now it is 43 and mostly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
If you've ever been a victim of crime or been contacted by police to be a witness in a crime, you know, it can just really create a lot of anxiety. And what the Murray City Police Department has done with their interview room for victims of crimes to make it much more inviting, I think it's a great step in the right direction to recognize that survivors of crime are going through a lot emotionally. And I'm interested in talking to Daniela Rivera of the investigative team here at KSL 5 Television to ask her what she saw and when looking at this new interview room and why it's so important.
For decades, my family and I, both formally and informally, have been victims advocates. It's been something that's been very near and dear to our family's hearts because this is some of the darkest moments of people's lives when something happens. Police have to get the information. They have to interview victims. This is inevitable. You can't get around it. But the way we interview victims, the way we speak to them is sometimes cold. And I don't know if it's because police have become desensitized. This is what they do all day, every day. They talk about the most awful things that happen in our communities. But when you're bringing in a victim to get their statement, oftentimes we will put them in the exact same interview room that the perpetrator would go into. And these interview rooms typically are very Spartan. They're drab. There are hard seats, there's a table, and it's a very cold environment. So Daniela Rivera joins us right now, KSL investigative reporter. Tell us more about this, what Murray City has done to create a soft interview room. What is a soft interview room?
Yeah, the concept of a soft interview room is somewhat new, as I think there is a movement among law enforcement to become more trauma-informed in these investigations. It's a room that you walk into that doesn't look like you're in a police department. There's a nice rug on the floor, big windows, soft lighting, lamps throughout the room, comfy chairs, blankets, stress balls, calming scents that can be diffused. Just a really nice environment compared to what you were just talking about, which is what I've seen in my work as I've requested interviews, videos of interviews between survivors and police, and I'm looking at the room they're in, and it's cold. Yeah. It's drab. It's probably intimidating. It's the
old
same
white chunky brick from the 70s.
It's the same exact room they would be interviewing the perp in. But that's where we're putting the survivor, and a lot of times out of necessity, right? Because those are the rooms the police departments have. But Murray Police, their victim advocate, Alyssa Black, she's been doing this for more than 20 years. And she talked to me about this huge shift she's seen in her career in how we treat victims and survivors. And the soft interview rooms are a huge part of that have now been realized there at Murray Police.
We have a clip of your interview with her.
We know that there's barriers to them coming forward, and most don't ever come to a police department, and that's one of the things that we wanted to try and fix.
That has been something that I've heard over the years is when a victim comes forward, oftentimes they feel traumatized by the interview process itself. And I understand police are trying to get to the facts, and they're trying to figure out exactly what is going on. And it's not always touchy-feely, the conversation. But I think this soft room, this interview room, is more inviting, and it can be more relaxing for the individuals. Have they seen success in this? What has their experience been now that they've created this quote-unquote soft interview room?
Yeah, she told me she's already seeing a difference. People feel more comfortable when they come in and they sit down in that room and they start to share their story. And, a part of that is we've changed interview techniques or, working toward that over the years and how we talk to survivors. Something else that was fascinating about this to me that I didn't necessarily think of because I don't have children, but the adult room that we were looking at is right next to a soft interview room for children. So toys, coloring books, stuffed animals, a TV with kids channels. And those two rooms are separated by a large soundproofed window. And she said that has been huge because a lot of times people are coming in, they didn't plan on talking to the police that day. They have their kids with them. They don't have childcare. And to be able to put them in that room where mom or dad can see them, they instantly feel better. They're not worrying about where's my kid, are they safe? They can literally see them. At the same time, kiddo is out of earshot. So while they're talking about tough things, children don't have to hear that. And the parents can be relieved of the stress of figuring out how to make sure their kid is safe while they're then trying to talk to police about potentially the worst day of their life.
Yeah. I think about all the people and all the stories I've done over the years and I've interviewed, and it seems like witnesses will have different accounts of what they saw, of course, because they're traumatized in the moment. And I remember not far from here, many years ago, long before they had surveillance footage. I mean, just surveillance footage was not a thing back then. And then if you did have it, it was really grainy and hard to, see anybody in the footage, make out any images. And it was an armed robbery at a convenience store in Salt Lake City. And again, this is decades ago. And I went out there to do a story on it because it was pretty violent. And there were, I think, 6 different witnesses who were in and around the convenience store, and they all had a different description of the suspect, including totally different heights. Like some put the suspect at over 6 foot, others put him at like 5'5", and just different hair color. So when you talk about trauma and being a witness, and aside from being a victim, of course, witnesses could be also victims, right? Because of what they've been through. I think giving these victims and witnesses a space that is more comforting could bring out more details that are specific to the case as opposed to, because they're just going through so much trauma.
Absolutely.
They need an environment that is much more chill to relax in. And are they using it for that reason too, to get those extra details that they might not be able to get otherwise?
Yes,
Danielle?
yes. And I think it seems logical that when you feel more calm, you feel more relaxed. And I think just the way we treat people, even just walking into this room, it seems simple, but they're in a different room than you would put a suspect in. They're in a different room, and it's almost like just the creation of that room and using that room says, we believe you. We're not investigating you. We want to hear your story.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is this paid for by the city, or is this from donations?
This was a large donation from a nonprofit based in Texas. It's called Project Beloved, and it was inspired by just a really tragic story. A serial rapist had killed 2 women, and one of those women, her family created this nonprofit, and they outfit departments across the country with soft interview rooms. And the other woman who was also killed by this same perpetrator, she was an amateur photographer, and so it's her artwork that's displayed on the walls in these rooms. Really bright, beautiful photos of nature.
Do you see this catching on other police departments, Daniela?
Absolutely, and I know there are a few other departments, at least that I'm aware of in Utah, that have this. Murray's just got it, so we went over there to talk to them. The department, Alyssa Black told me she's hoping this will inspire other departments to, think about the environment we're creating for survivors and do everything we can to do better for victims in our system.
We appreciate you taking the time and telling this story. Daniela Rivera, KSL investigative reporter. If you want to check her story out, you can go to ksltv.com and learn about these soft interview rooms. Thanks, Danny.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to have you in.
Thanks for having me.
Straight ahead, remember last week, I think it was last week, Dave, we talked about a push on Utah's Capitol Hill. It was a proposal on Utah's Capitol Hill to give, set aside a legislative committee to discuss how our judges were doing and give them either a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the ballot. Okay, this is something I'd never heard of before. It seemed to me it was unprecedented. And now that legislation has taken a turn. So we're going to talk to Holly Richardson of Utah Policy in just a moment. She tracks legislation for not only utahpolicy.com, but also has been helping us out cover Utah's Capitol Hill on what's changed in the last few days. Next.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. As the state's largest and oldest private ambulance provider, Gold Cross Ambulance was founded in 1968 with the vision of providing quality medical care to everyone, regardless of race, creed, color, religion, or the ability to pay. President Mike Moffitt joins us with more.
Gold Cross Ambulance has been a leader in emergency medical services across Utah for over 5 decades. With a fleet of specialized vehicles and state-of-the-art communications center, Gold Cross serves Salt Lake, Utah, Iron, Washington, and Uinta counties. Our services include paramedic care, neonatal and bariatric transport, critical care, mass casualty response, basic life support, and event standby services. Gold Cross is uniquely equipped to respond to emergencies anywhere in Utah, with resources like disaster relief trailers and ATVs designed to access remote areas. Unlike municipal emergency services, Gold Cross operates as a user-funded service without government funding. Our rates are regulated by the state of Utah, and we work closely with local, state, and federal agencies to ensure quality care and emergency service access for all. At Gold Cross, we consistently surpass state and local regulations to provide the highest level of care. Discover more about our services at goldcrossservices.com.
Gold Cross Ambulance is dedicated to making its emergency services among the best in the nation, earning national accreditation from the Commission on Accreditation of Ambulance Services, placing the company within the top 1% of ambulance services in the country. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
With 415,000 Utahns and 1 in 6 Utah kids facing hunger, Utah Food Bank, Macy's Grocery, Lee's Marketplace, and Lynn's need your help to fight hunger statewide. Simply fill a bag with non-perishable food donations and put it at your doorstep by 9 a.m. on Saturday, March 15th to support the Feed Utah food drive. Donations will be picked up by volunteers and can be the difference between hunger and hope. Learn more about how you can be a part of this statewide effort at utahfoodbank.org/feedutah.
Dave, and Dujanovic.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, we've been talking a lot the last couple of days about legislative developments, and there's going to be a lot more as the session winds down here on Friday. But this one happened after you and I discussed a plan that was being pitched on Utah's Capitol Hill. It was a proposal that would have set up a legislative commission to recommend whether a judge should be retained or not retained. And so when you got your ballot, when you went to vote, it would essentially, for lack of a better way of explaining this, give a judge a thumbs up or a thumbs down based on what this legislative commission had determined. It looks to me as though that bill has puttered out on Capitol Hill.
This was one of the wilder proposals that I think we saw this year, because you're right. Nowhere on the ballot do we look and get a thumbs up or thumbs down, as you're describing that, of who we should vote for. Like that is very unique. Now, the judges, whether or not you want to retain a judge or remove them, that is probably the most overwhelmed I feel when it comes to a ballot, because I don't know these judges personally. I haven't met with them. They don't campaign. That's a very unique thing about judges, is they're not allowed to go out there and campaign to retain their positions. So it's where we probably have the least amount of resources and the least knowledge.
So that was one of the problems that I saw with this legislation, or just maybe the hiccups is a better way to put it, is how do you defend yourself if you're a judge and a legislative commission has given you a thumbs down? Because you can't campaign, right? You can't go out and campaign and tell voters, look, I disagree with what they found, or here's why you should retain me. So your hands are tied as a judge in that regard. Also say, to what you just mentioned, I've been saying this all along, and that is we don't do this for school board members. We do not do this for lawmakers. We don't do this for the governor's race. We don't do it at all on the ballot, from what I know.
We don't do it for
judges?
initiatives.
Yeah. Why judges? That may be, or may not be, one of the reasons why, at least for now, it seems like it's been tabled up on the Hill. Let's bring in Holly Richardson of Utah Policy to get the latest on this. So what do you know about this proposal, Holly, and what happened to it?
It's dead. So that is one of the things that was announced yesterday. So that bill has been sent back to rules, but what that really means, according to the agreement, is there are actually 3 bills that the legislature will not move forward on this year, and then there's 3 other ones that will, or 4 other ones that will move forward through the regular process. So the one you mentioned, it's dead for the year, and there's another one on needing 2/3 of a vote for retention elections. That one's dead. And then there was a bill saying we're going to expand the Utah Supreme Court, and that one is also dead for the year.
So there are resources to learn more about judges. It's judges.utah.gov. But this would be in addition to that, correct? That would have been.
It would have been directly on the ballot. So instead of going to a website, right, or the voter information pamphlet, this would actually have put the legislative recommendation right on the ballot. And part of the problem, I think we've mentioned before with the bill, was that there was no metric. There was no kind of, checkbox of, this is why we don't recommend this judge, or this is why we do recommend this judge. And so it felt like it was very personally directed at the judiciary, and that's what they felt too. And then they straight up called it retribution.
And so now, once it goes to rules, especially this late in the session, means it's not going to come out this session. Might it go to the interim though to be discussed for a later session?
I don't know for sure. There was no indication really that this is permanently off the table. It's just that this legislative session, they're not going to move forward with it. So when bills go to rules, you actually can pull them back out of rules, but there is an agreed upon compromise between the legislature and the judiciary, so this one won't come back out.
Now, advocates for the judiciary, as you were mentioning the retribution, what would that retribution have been about?
Well, the recent decisions that the legislature disagreed with. So the amendments on last year's ballot, there were 2 amendments that were struck off the ballot for unclear language. They also were unhappy with the Utah Supreme Court's ruling on redistricting and gerrymandering. They weren't happy about that. And the bills that are moving forward, there's still some unease with the judiciary having paused the Utah anti-abortion bill. So those are really the big ones, the two amendments on the ballot and the gerrymandering case.
And Holly, I think we addressed this last week when we talked about this legislation, and I think I asked, do lawmakers deny that this is retribution? Where does that stand right now?
Yeah, I think they still do deny that. And even in the press release that the legislature put out yesterday following the agreement, they just said, look, this is just part of the process. the legislature does set laws governing the judiciary, and through thoughtful and deliberate debate, this is what we've decided to do.
Holly, we appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, can I just ask her one quick question? We don't have much time, Holly, but I am curious, is there one particular piece of legislation that you're keeping a close eye on that is moving forward regarding the judicial branch on Capitol Hill?
Yeah, I think there's kind of the package of bills that are moving forward that would address this injunction, the ability to have an injunction. So it's also a bill and a resolution that would change the Utah Constitution, saying the legislature wants to be able to enact policy even if there's lawsuits ongoing, and that's the abortion case.
Okay, so that would deal specifically with injunctions then? So while cases are
Yep.
put on pause while it winds
Yep.
its way through the courts, or while laws are put on pause while the case winds its way through the courts, the legislature wants to do what? Repeat that for me.
They want to be able to let that law be implemented and not have it be put on pause while it makes its way through the court. That's the bottom line.
Okay.
Debbie and I were trying to figure out, when we go back to this this bill that ended up failing, is there anywhere else on the ballot that you could think of that gave some sort of indication of whether or not you should vote for something? Is there anything that you can think of?
The only one, and this one was brought up in committee hearings actually, is the letter that designates what political party you belong to. So an R for Republican, a D for Democrat, G for Green Party, whatever. But those could be considered quote unquote recommendations if you really favor the Republican Party, right? Then you know who the person is that you want to vote for.
I see. So when a candidate's name obviously has an R or a D by it, that could be sort of an indication of who might. I see. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a stretch, but yeah, that is the argument, and that is the only place where you see any kind of quote unquote recommendation for who you should vote for.
Holly, thank you so much for joining us. Holly
My pleasure.
Richardson, the editor with Utah Policy.
So the bill that would have labeled a judge's ballot, or the portion of the ballot with the judge's names on it, would recommended or not recommended a judge for retention. That piece of legislation, for all intents and purposes, is not going to likely get out of rules in the next few days. And as Holly said, it's dead.
And if you do have questions about judges and whether or not you should retain them, you can go to the website, judges.utah.gov. There's a Utah Judicial Performance Evaluation Commission, and they will show every judge in detail. You can read more about the strengths and the weaknesses about a judge, because this commission gets together and there's evaluations that are done by lawyers and staff and clerks, and then the commission will ultimately vote of whether or not they recommend keeping this with this judge. Again, judges.utah.gov is a resource if you do have questions about whether or not a judge should be retained.
Have you used it before when you're voting?
Absolutely. Yeah, I look at it every single time because I know that's one of the areas that I'm probably least familiar with, is which judges are up, who the judges are, their strengths and their weaknesses.
Straight ahead, Maria's up next. A fire broke out as students were arriving at West Haven Elementary this morning. It prompted an emergency evacuation and shut down the school for the rest of the day. So Maria and the team of reporters and producers who've been working on this story will have more straight ahead on Utah's New News.
This is Rod with great news for Utah homebuyers. When you hire the Save Right team of realtors at Realty Path, you get a Bank Buster loan with a fixed interest rate in the 5s. What is a Bank Buster loan? A Bank Buster loan gives you a fixed interest rate in the 5s. Bank Buster loans give you maximum buying power. Monthly payments can be up to $800 lower. Bank Buster loans can save you hundreds of thousands in mortgage interest. Get your Bank Buster loan when you hire the Save Right team of realtors to help you buy a home. Start with a rate in the 2s. Ask us how. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com. Get way more home for a lot less money. Get a Bankbuster loan. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com.
I will never forget the time that we experienced live on the show the Great Utah Shakeout. Debbie, you and I were on the air, and the Great Utah Shakeout happened at a we're at a elementary school or junior high school. We're like crawling under our desks, practicing for the big one, what to do for the big one. Right now, joining us from Be Ready Utah is Brian Stinson. And Brian, the Great Utah Shakeout is coming up next month.
Yes, we want to encourage everybody. April 17th, you can go to bereadyutah.gov, and we would love you to register for the Shakeout. The whole point is learning about drop, cover, hold on, which is the protective action for earthquake. There's information on there, things you can do to secure things to the walls in your home. We have information on go do a home hazard hunt. Go through your house, see what things are not safe. And it's an easy checklist. It's good to do the checklist, but then make the corrections afterwards.
Well, since we've chatted with Be Ready Utah, I have been much more ready in my own home. I
Awesome.
even bought museum putty to kind of help hold down those heavier objects that are on some shelves. I know Dave has done his home inspection and found that he should not have trophies over his kid's bed as they sleep.
That was
night.
like artillery above my kid's head. It was very dangerous.
It's been really a helpful experience, and it's coming up again in April where we all go through the drill.
Yes, and again, we would encourage everybody to participate in that. Just a reminder, every little thing you do to prepare your family for an earthquake, flooding, wildfire, or any other emergency event, it helps increase the odds that you'll come through the incident not only surviving, but with confidence, dignity, and comfort. Remember, preparation is peace of mind. We'd love you to come visit us at bereadyutah.gov and see what you can do to help your family be more prepared.
Yeah, such a